Hey guys, welcome back to Horsetooth Cinema, and today is my first live stream in like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months or something like that. It's been a long time since I've been back to one of these, but I'm really happy to be doing it. Today, I've got my good friend Leon from Leon Talks Film on here. How's it going?
Hi, yeah, not too bad, man. Thank you so much for having me. I also haven't done a live stream for so long, so we're in this kind of boat together. It's been a while since I've done anything YouTube related, so I'm excited to be back, as it were.
Yeah, no, I know, me too. I've been busy and like in some ways kind of unmotivated in areas of my
Yeah,
life. So it's something I want to fix because I do really enjoy doing this, and I want, I'm really grateful to people who watch me and watch like
yeah,
live streams of anything. So
exactly.
but yeah, so the reason that we're on here today is Leon and I have kind of been talking. We decided that we wanted to talk about our favorite first time watches of 2023. I don't know if you have anything. I forget all the titles that are on your list because we did exchange lists a little bit, but I don't
Yeah.
remember. Are there any 2023 titles on it?
No.
Or
I made a point to like exclude anything from this year because I kind of wanted it to just be because like when we're doing like lists such as like the best films of 2023, there's going to be an overlap there or something. Like if I make a list like that or something, so I just decided that for this list I've excluded anything that came out this year. So it's just like first time watches across the board. It could be a film from the 70s, a film from 2 years ago, something like that. Really.
yeah,
Um,
no,
how
I've
about
done the
yours?
same. Yeah, no, I've done the same. I kind of made a point to kind of make it, older films, especially because I think I still do want to either do a live stream or a video on my favorite watches of films that came out in 2023. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah. So first of all, we do have one comment from the
Ooh.
legendary Winslow with the
Hi,
classic Winslow.
Winslow.
Thank you so much for tuning in, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah, no, just lovely to chat with you in these streams.
Oh,
And I guess Winslow and anybody else who ends up watching, let me know because I am in kind of a remote area right now. I do have Wi-Fi, but I'm kind of on a weekend, well, not weekend, but sort of like holiday trip, and I think my connection's okay, but I just want to make sure because StreamYard says it's iffy, but it seems to be working fine so far. So
yeah.
just let me know in the comments if it's an issue. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, it's perfect on your end, and yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's
So
perfect on my end. Sorry for you.
yes, exactly. Yeah, no, I know what you mean there. So the way I was thinking of structuring this is we can. I think we could just like both start with like our number 10 films, or like I'll let
Yeah.
you go first, and then I'll go,
Oh,
and then we'll
okay.
do 9, 8, and all the way down
Yeah,
until we
like
get to the
alternate
number
and
one.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
for sure.
absolutely. Yeah. So, initially when I did my list of favorite first time watches, as you know, through messages and stuff, my list was like 16 films, not ordered whatsoever. So, I'm not gonna lie, and this is a good kind of painful, but it was painful to organize these because
Yeah.
I love all of these films so much in one way or another, and any one of these could technically be my favorite first time watch of the year. But in terms of an order, at number 10, I've chosen Greg Araki's Mysterious Skin. I
Oh,
don't know if
okay.
you've seen that.
I have not seen that. I actually haven't seen any Greg Araki films. I've been wanting to get into his work for a while, especially ever since I first discovered John Waters, because it's very much like a different style. From what I've heard about Greg Araki, it's like a different style of like queer, transgressive kind of
Yes.
cinema.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen two films from him, two vastly different films. My first film I watched from him was actually the I think it's like a 2005 comedy called Smiley Face, which I will defend as quite possibly the funniest stoner comedy of all time. It is so funny in every single way. I really have to show it you sometime. It's so great. It's like one of the funniest films ever. And then you watch Mysterious Skin, which is like the most heart-wrenching kind of you know those type of films where people say I could never watch that again. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I could go back and revisit this. Mysterious Skin might be a troubling one for me because that film is really disturbing. It's one of the breakout roles of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he basically
Yeah.
plays a guy who's he's selling he's basically an escort essentially, and he's going around sleeping with people, and some shenanigans occur that are not so good. I don't know if I should use the word shenanigans given this topic, but some incidents occur that are very, very upsetting to watch, and there's also a very kind of a tragic childhood backstory between his character and a few other characters who kind of intersect at one point. It's
Sure.
really heartbreaking. It's really emotional. It made me like tear up. Like, there's actually a few films on this list that made me do that, but it made me really, really upset. And it's just something that, in the best way possible, because this is the intended effect, it made me want to throw up. Like, it's a very like viscerally kind of gross film, but
Yeah.
it's also really beautiful in a lot of ways. Yeah, no, I'd absolutely recommend it. I checked it out on Mubi, I think, because it was just streaming on Mubi when I had like a month trial or something. So yeah, Mysterious Skin is fantastic, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Trigger warning for every possible thing you could be triggered by. Like, essentially, it's
Sure.
really, really disturbing. But great film.
Yeah, no, I really have been wanting to check that out. I didn't know maybe that it was kind of at that level of disturbing. It sounds like it's kind of up there with, I don't know, like Irreversible or like other, just like make you want to vomit kind of titles out
Yeah,
there. But
it's like this is going to be a weird thing to say because I know you're not a fan of the film, but it's kind of like Requiem of a Dream level-esque, but it's not
oh, sure.
like a Dare type film. But just in terms of like
Yeah, yeah,
the actual
no, yeah.
content you're seeing, it
I
definitely
get why
feels kind of
people,
Requiem.
yeah, I get why people like Requiem for a Dream just in the like the visceral, sense of it. And I get similar like I don't feel like similar like to the heroin scenes in like Train Spotting,
Yeah.
which is weird to say just because I feel like I almost think of Train Spotting as a comedy just because of how funny it is at times. But like
Oh god, yeah.
it's more but it certainly like gets really disturbing like Requiem for a Dream as well.
Yeah, no,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I think you'd probably really like Mysterious Skin, but it's a tough sell. Like, it's not something I'd just like throw on to show a friend or something. I think
yeah.
it's definitely got to be something that like one of those films you watch alone. I don't think it's going to be a fun experience watching it with someone. Not that it's going to be an inherently fun experience as it is, but it's a really like powerful, beautiful, but just tragic kind of tale of things that I don't even want to repeat because it's just
Yeah.
very it's a lot. But yeah,
Okay.
fantastic film. Fantastic film.
Winslow has a couple of comments about it. So he says, yeah, Jesus, Mysterious Skin will break you.
Yeah, yeah.
And he also
That's the best
says,
way.
I've only seen it once, but I listened to the piano track that film closes with all the time. Very emotional. Do
Oh
you
god,
know if
yeah,
that is
yeah.
like an original composition, or is that like a
I
instrumental piece that was just put in the film or something?
I can't actually remember. I should go have a look now.
Okay.
Actually, Winslow, update us. I feel like Winslow will know.
Winslow might know the answer to
Yeah, because
that. He
like
always
he
does.
listens to it and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I remember like how the film ends. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really upsetting. Ah, great film, great film.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, what's your
Well,
number 10?
so yeah, that's yeah. My number 10 is "Woman in the Dunes," which
Oh,
is
nice.
yeah. So it's a kind of, I would say yeah, it's still in like the era of like classic, like the golden age of Japanese cinema, but it's not necessarily by one of the like premier auteurs of that time. Like it's not Kurosawa or Ozu or something like that. It's directed by
Yeah.
Hiroshi Teshigahara, who made some other like similar kind of I think Woman in the Dunes is his most famous film, but then there's like he did some other like similar kind of esoteric art dramas and stuff like that. But yeah, so the Woman in the Dunes, if you guys don't know, is about a guy, I believe is an entomologist, like he studies bugs, and he's like from Tokyo, and he goes out to this rural, like remote region of Japan to take samples essentially. And while he's out there, he's in like these sand dunes, and he ends up getting trapped at the bottom of one, and he can't get out of it because of the way the sand is slight. It's kind of like the way that the sand is photographed in the film is very much like I've never really seen anything like it because it's very like thematically tied into everything. So the whole thing is kind of like this allegory, kind of like Sisyphus, of like somebody who's really trying to like be in control of their circumstances and then just can't. They always end up like sliding back down the hill.
Yeah.
That's like what's happening to the character, like on kind of a deeper level, but it's also like literally what you see a lot of the time. And so at the bottom of this dune, though, there's like a house, and a woman lives there. and I believe she's kind of like mysterious at first, and they kind of like start having conversations about like her situation and everything, and they start surviving together. But I won't spoil it. But as the film goes on, it starts to be revealed a little bit more about like why she's down there and what the whole broader situation of this weird geographic anomaly is. And it's kind of mixes that whole like Sisyphus kind of allegory with like this very psychosexual kind of relationship drama with these two characters. And at a certain point, you start to wonder, like, maybe he would be better off just staying here and just like living out his entire existence, like at the bottom of this dune with this woman, because like what is he really going back to?
Yeah.
So yeah,
That sounds fascinating.
It's a really it's quite the film. It's also it's probably one that I don't think I fully understand on the first viewing. But it just like really really overwhelmed me on the first viewing in a good way. And I thought it was gorgeous. I got a lot out of it. So yeah.
There's a Criterion release for that, right?
It is, yeah. I got it for I don't remember if it was for Christmas last year, or I think I bought it for myself at one point. I just wanted to check it out, but that's how I watched it. So
no, that sounds great. Yeah, no, I'd really like to see that. I don't know if the Criterion's available over here, but I'd love to track that down. It sounds fascinating. No, that sounds like a really solid film, and I'd really like to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, real quick before we go to your number 9, I just wanted to get we got a couple more comments here. One is from Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Did you see that? Hey, how's it going, man? Hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
And then Winslow, Winslow also says, back to the mysterious skin question. As far as I'm aware, it's not original for the film, but I've never really looked into it. I just found it on the soundtrack. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful piece. Yeah. But I really want to see Woman in the Dunes. That sounds fascinating. At least like the best thing from this stream is I'm gonna get some good recommendations of films.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, yeah, this is gonna motivate me to like push some things to the front of my watch list. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. In ninth place, this is a film you have seen, so we can both talk about this one. I saw this early this year. I think it came out last year or maybe the year before. I can't remember. But it's Gaspar Noé's Vortex, which is another tragic film, double bill of tragedy.
Yeah.
Vortex. Vortex is a really, really, really upsetting film about an elderly couple with mental they're not like I don't want to say. Would you say mental illnesses?
One of them has dementia, I think it's said, and then the other one has like a heart problem. It's more of a physical ailment. Yeah.
Yeah. Dario has like the heart problem, and I should mention it's also the first acting role of Mr. Dario Argento himself. Like he's had cameos and stuff in the past, but this is the first time he's ever actually been at the center focus. And this film,
and he's amazing in it. Like it's like you would never know that it's like his first like real dramatic performance or something.
No, absolutely not. It's such a heartbreaking film, and again made me like sob. It's so sad. But it's so beautiful as well, and it's kind of it's following on from what Noé kind of started messing about with Lux Eterna. I don't know if you've seen Lux Eterna yet.
I have. But film, I've seen all of Gaspar Noé's like features.
Awesome.
And then a couple of his shorts too. But yeah.
Yeah, I love Noé. I think he's great. But it's kind of like continuing on with that method of kind of filming multiple sequences at once in kind of a what would you use? What's the terminology you'd use to describe it?
It's split screen, so it's actually like a technique. I think directly. I mean, like De Palma kind of popularized it, you could say. So.
No,
he does
absolutely.
that. I think he does that in Carrie with the prom scene and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like the split screen focus of these two individuals who are basically living out their last days in like increasingly heartbreaking ways. There's like kind of a tumultuous relationship with their son, and there'll just be like portions of the film where you're kind of just following these characters as they live out their life. One of them will go to the store, go to the shop. The other one will be at home trying to write to somebody, talk to somebody, something like that. And you'll just see these characters live out their life, and it's both beautiful and tragic in so many ways. It's by far, like, and I don't want to say this as in a negative connotation to his other work, but it's by far one of the most human films Noé has ever made. Not to
Yeah.
say that something like Irreversible isn't human or anything like that, but it's the calmest film he's ever made for sure. It's not a sensory overload like Enter the Void. It's not going to it's not like Climax or anything like that. It's a very reserved drama, and I know there's been some comparisons to the Haneke film Amour, I think, which I still need to see.
Yeah, I still
So
need to
I
see it
can't.
too. Yep.
Yeah, I can't comment on like how similar they are because I know YMS, like Your Movie Sucks. He didn't really like Vortex because he was like, oh, it's just copying that. I haven't seen that, so I can't really like
Mm,
confirm or like deny how influenced it is by that. But like
yeah.
in terms of its unique kind of visual aesthetic and how it portrays this couple, it's one of the most beautiful things I've seen all year. Like it's
Yeah.
absolutely like gorgeous in every sense of a word, and it's something that like it's very rare that I could find a Gaspar Noé film that I could recommend to people who are not into kind of more art house experimental cinema. Like it's very difficult to like say,
Yeah.
oh hey, watch Irreversible, you're gonna have a great
Yeah.
time. No, no. It's like it's very
Yeah.
difficult to recommend his films, but I
Yeah.
think Vortex is something you could show to relatively anybody and they'd get something out of it, either from
You could.
like how they relate
It's
to the
really.
experience.
Yeah. It is. I still think it's maybe. I actually think it might be like his second hardest film to watch. Like after Irreversible, I think it really stuck with me. Like in the days after I saw it.
Yeah.
It's a very like drawn out experience. Like it's over.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like 2.5 hours long. And it does like if you just
Yes.
on a very literal like plot level, it doesn't need to be. But like the point of part of the point of it is that that's these people's existence at this point in life. It's very
Yeah.
drawn out and slow and kind of miserable. So in
Oh
that way,
god,
it's I
yeah.
mean it's so effective. It's at what it's doing. It's just in that way, I think it's still hard to recommend to people. But it is
Yeah.
his most like just because it's a more human story and it's less like flashy and kind of for lack of a better term edgy in the way that a lot of his films
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
I think it's probably is like his maybe his most accessible, although I don't know, I feel like Climax might be the best entry point, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I've shown many people Climax and I get mixed results from it sometimes. Sometimes people will be head over heels, some people will just not like the vibe it's going for. But
Yeah.
I think I meant more so in like you were saying, like accessible, it's weird to even say it's traditional because again, the split screen kind of focus of the film and kind of having sequences overlap for such a long period, especially early on, could probably be challenging to people who are not really used to films that are gonna like take creative risks like that. But
Mhm.
I do think there's a lot to get out of Vortex. But someone who I don't know in the case of something like again going back to Irreversible, obviously there's a very upsetting and disturbing sequence in that film that some people are going to hear about and they're just flat out going to refuse the film because of the content in it. I feel like with Vortex it's relatively like I mean they swear, they might say like the F word a couple of times or something, but content wise I think it's broadly accessible to fairly anybody, which is
Yeah.
it, but it's weird because I don't know if I'd want to make it like a starting point because someone watches that and they're like, oh, I wonder if he's made more films like that. They go into Enter the Void and they're like, what am I watching?
Or like
It's just
love or something.
oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, Vortex is fantastic. I could see it going up even more on a rewatch. I have it at like a 9 out of 10 right now, but I could easily see it being like a 10 out of 10 5-star film one day.
Yep.
It's
Me
just
too.
like Mysterious Skin. It's one of those where it's like I'm not racing back to rewatch it because I now that I know what I'm in for, I'm just like this is going to like take a part of me.
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt. So
It's
like
yeah.
that's the one thing about that film, but it's beautiful. It's absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful.
I completely
Um,
agree. It was on my top three, I want to say, of last year when it came out. I
yeah.
actually did get to see it theatrically too.
I'm
I had to go
so
out of my way
jealous.
to do it, but it was worth it for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
I there was no like cinemas playing it nearby, but the
yeah.
pre-order for the Blu-ray went up like 2 months after it had a very limited theatrical run here, and I was like, I'm pre-ordering that. I need it day one. I want to own it because I think
Yep.
I own every Noé film with the exception of I Stand Alone because there's like no Blu-rays of that as far as I'm
There's a
aware.
DVD, I think, but I don't think there's a
Yeah,
Blu-ray. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I Stand Alone is I
That's a
don't know
rough
if
one
that'd
too.
ever get. Yeah, I don't know if that would get through the BBFC. I feel like there's content in that film, but maybe I don't
It's not
know.
Carne wouldn't because of the animal stuff in it, right?
Oh God,
But
yeah. The animal
I,
stuff at
I
the
don't think
start.
that I don't think I Stand Alone has that, does it? Or
I think the one thing that makes me like consider the BBFC might like push it over the edges is that one sequence early on where he's in like the porno theater and it's just like an extended 2 minute shot of like graphic porn playing in a cinema. Maybe the
yeah,
BBFC would have an
could
issue with
be.
that.
I
I
mean,
don't
like
know.
they greenlit Love, right? Like that's like an
They
entire like
Actually, yeah. Actually, I don't know. The
yeah,
BBFC is so strange. I never know. Someday they'll push something through. The next day they'll be like, "You're not bringing that in." So it's like
yeah,
I'm like always 50-50 with them. But anyway, what's your number
yeah.
9?
My number 9 is a very similar film to Vortex, and that is Freddy Got Fingered.
Oh my god, a tragic film. It's so heartbreaking.
I knew this was going to be such a shift as soon as you told me what your number 9 was, but so yeah, I'd heard many things about this for years. I had avoided watching the Red Letter Media video on it because I kind of wanted to watch the film first and then watch the
Yes.
Mike's genius theory about it.
Oh my
Um,
god. Yes.
but yeah, like so it's if you haven't seen it, it's essentially one of Tom Green, who used to have his own show. Kind of, God, what would you compare it to? Like
Like Eric Andre show or
Eric
something like
Andre,
that.
yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, like, and he, um, got a budget to go make a movie, and it's essentially one of those like kind of early 2000s like gross out comedies, like kind of I don't know,
American
American Pie.
Pie.
There's something
Yeah.
about Mary, something like that, but it's such an extreme version of something like that in terms of like the gross out gags and all the sex stuff, and you watch it and you're like, without context, you watch it and you're like, this is one of the worst things ever, or is it one of the best? And I just don't know the story behind this. You watch. I think the biggest thing people say is like, there's got to be more to this. Like, there's got to be more story to this,
Yes.
because some of the things that happen completely nonsensically. Like the first big one is the horse scene where he's driving across the country, like after you've had like the very standard like kind of gross out comedy setup, like he starts his road trip and he just pulls over like to see this big horse erection, and he has to go like
Play
I
with
won't
it.
say too. Yeah, so it's completely out of nowhere. It's just like so the theory in a lot of ways is that Tom Green didn't really want to make a movie, but he was given the budget to
Yes.
do it, so he just kind of like shit posted the studio and just like put in all of these like crazy over the top like gags, just to fuck with people, just to make it as
Yeah.
out there as possible. And I will say, if that theory is true, which there's a lot of evidence that it is like an incredible time to watch it, like kind of with that in mind.
Oh god, yeah. It's the first time I watched Freddy Got Fingered, I didn't know much about its kind of like meta reputation, like the Red Letter Media-esque stuff. I just went into it. I was like, I've heard this is a really awful film. I didn't know anything about like the theories going behind the scenes
Sure.
and all of that, like the meta angles. I watched it and I it was on like Prime or something. I watched it. I was like, this is the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen in my entire life. I did not find it funny whatsoever. I posted my review to Facebook, and everyone was like, "You're just misunderstanding it. You don't get it." And I was like, I don't know about that. It convinced my friend Adam to check it out. He watched it. He thought it was fucking hilarious, and I was like, "We are at two different, complete like wavelengths right now. We're at complete opposite ends of a spectrum." So he came around, and he brought another friend around who hadn't seen the film, and he was like, "We're watching this," and I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna have a person who loves it, a person who hates it, and then a person who hasn't seen it. I watch it then, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty funny, and it just kind of worked for me then. And then I became friends with Brady. You know Brady, of
Yeah, of
course,
course.
and Brady has like an undying love for Freddy Got Fingered, and there was also the time where I was really getting back into Red Letter Media after a few years of not checking their videos out. I watched their review, and I think on my subsequent viewing with Brady, it just clicked, and now it's like one of my favorite things in the entire world. And I'm like, I don't know how I didn't find it funny before,
I
even though
know.
there's so much in that film that is incredibly unfunny, but there's also so much that is incredibly funny, but I can't
Yeah.
really explain why it's funny outside of it's just funny that Tom Green convinced the studio to spend $20
Yes.
million on this dumpster fire of a film. Um, oh, it's so good. It is so great. There
That's
are just
yeah.
sequences from that film that are etched into my brain, and it's not even the big ones. Like everyone will always mention, like, "Daddy, would you like some sausage?" or something like that. But
Yeah.
my favorite scenes are just Rip Torn losing his shit at Gord. Like every single scene involving him just screaming at him, calling him every like slur and like a horrible like insult under the like
Get out of
bridge.
my
It's just like
goddamn scuba gear, you
the
imbecile.
scuba gear line is the best thing in the entire world. It's like maybe one of my favorite line deliveries in like comedy. Like it's
Yeah.
so funny, and it's immediately followed by him like grabbing Gordy and smashing like the shower. It's like
Hmm.
it's so graphic. Oh, I love Freddy Got
It's
Fingered. It's a masterpiece. The only thing I'll say, I'm disappointed it's not your number one. I'm really
I
disappointed it's not your
know.
number
I
one.
know. I was thinking about it, but I don't know. I I didn't know how much of a of a troll I wanted to be. But I mean, there is a part of me that does have it as number one. Like there, when I'm
Good.
watching it, it's like it is the greatest movie of all time.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
the other thing, so one more thing I'll say about it, and then I do want to read a couple of Winslow's comments. But so because there's a lot of there's a lot of people have written a lot about it, not just in the sense of it being like a shit post, but also in the sense of it being like a surrealist work of art, like a
Yes.
Dada's kind of thing. And
Yes.
um, there's a guy, you can Google this, but there's a guy who legitimately wrote his master's thesis on why Freddy Got Fingered is a neo-surrealist masterpiece.
I heard about this. I heard about this, and it's incredible. It's
I
absolutely
you
fantastic.
can read it. It's like 60 pages. I haven't. I read like the intro, like the abstract, and then the intro. I need to go back. I kind of want to read the whole thing, but it's
Oh,
it's
it sounds
something else.
amazing.
So
It sounds fantastic. I Freddy Got Fingered. It needs a Blu-ray. It needs a director's cut, a Tom Green edit or something. I want that film preserved in more than just like a DVD from 20 years ago.
yes,
It deserves like a Criterion 4K or something. Like
yeah,
that would be like if we got Freddy Got Fingered on like Blu-ray or 4K, I don't think we'd need to request anything else on physical media. I think we'd be set for life.
yeah.
Actually, wait. Kung Pao Enter the Fist needs a Blu-ray. That's another great
I've not
Fox
seen that one
shitpost
yet.
movie. Um, oh,
uh, cool. So I'll read a couple of Winslow's comments, and then we'll get to your 8. Um,
awesome.
I don't rate films and don't list my first time watches, so it's hard to completely narrow down my favorites. But I delved into Albert Brooks's filmography and loved all those. Awesome.
Nice.
I
I
yeah,
want to watch Modern Romance. I've seen like a bit of it and loved what I've seen of it, but I want to like fully watch that film because
yeah.
Albert Brooks seems like a really fascinating director. I like what I've seen him in like as an actor, like Taxi Driver, Finding Nemo.
Have you seen him in
um,
he's in have you seen Broadcast News? That's one where he's
no,
like a
no.
lead. That's really really good. That's like a um it's like a love triangle, but it's kind of like Network. Like it has a lot of commentary on like news media and kind of like
Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that. Really really funny movie. And then the other one that I'll give a shout out to is Defending Your Life.
He
That's
directed
one
that,
that he
didn't he?
directed. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great movie too. Also kind of a romance, but with a really good like high concept kind of. I don't want to call it fantasy because it's about the afterlife, but it's a yeah, it's an interesting premise for sure. And then he also says Deja Vu, Stop Making Sense, IMAX, Only
Oh,
Angels Have Wings, Seven Up documentaries, Women on the Verge of a Nervous
yes.
Breakdown, The Insider, Planet of the Apes, and The Last Picture Show. Just a few awesome watches.
That's a fantastic list. Oh, do I have the Blu-ray here? Oh, where's the Blu-ray? I own the Seven Up like trilogy like series. Are you aware of the Seven Up films? They are
I'm
so
not
fascinating.
actually. Yeah.
Oh my god. Let me see if I can find the Blu-ray. I swear I own it. Oh wait, is it like here? One moment. I'm looking for my Seven Up Blu-rays. Where are they? I wanna show you these because they're so bizarre. I don't know where they are. Oh, it's all right. Anyway, so yeah, the Seven Up documentaries are essentially the series of British documentaries, and I think they started in like I want to say the '60s or something. I think it was like mid to. Let me. I've got Letterbox right here, so I will actually check like when Seven Up came out. 1 minute. So Seven Up came out in 1964, and the whole gimmick was basically it was just interviewing a bunch of 7-year-old children in Britain talking about what they want to be when they're older. It's like a 40-minute documentary, and they're basically just asking these kids, "Oh yeah, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, how's life right now?" And it's just like an inside look into the children of Britain at that time. 7 years
Oh,
later,
cool.
they went back to interview these kids when they were 14, and they were like, "What's changed? What do you want to do now?" And basically, the producer of that original documentary, which I need to get I need to get the guy's name up because I want to give him credit because he passed away recently, and it's actually really heartbreaking. So the guy who made the majority of the films, Michael Apted, he's also like a filmmaker. He directed The World Is Not Enough, like the 007
Oh,
film.
that's funny.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, he's directed a bunch of features, but he primarily he's known for these the Seven Up series because yeah, so 7 years after the first film, they interviewed him when they were 14. Then 7 years later, they interviewed them when they were 21, 28, 35, and it just continues and goes on and on. And then the last one that came out was I want to say when they were in their 60s or something. Yeah, 63 years old. So
Wow.
every 7 years, he would go back to interview the like 10 or so people who were included in that initial documentary when they were children. And he'd basically be like, "What's going on in your life?" And they just get progressively longer and more interesting. The first documentary is like 40 minutes. And then you get to like 63 up or something, it's like an almost 3 hour long documentary because there's
Wow.
so much that have been going on in these like people's lives. And they're just normal people. It's like, it's one of the most fascinating like film projects I've ever seen. And I'm pretty sure I want to say which was it? It might have been 21 Up or 28 Up. Roger Ebert listed as one of his favorite films of all time.
Cool. No,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
definitely gonna have to. It sounds like
amazing.
actually pretty similar to this book I was reading lately about like this. It was like the it was like the Harvard what is it called? It basically where they like yeah like it was like this longitudinal study of happiness, and they just kind of like progressively tracked people over their entire lives and stuff. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Oh, that's
Um,
fascinating.
yeah. Winslow also says taking of Phelan 123, Bridges of Madison County, Body Double, great movie. The Abyss,
Great
so many good
movie.
films. Miracle Mile,
Oh, Miracle
and
Mile,
That's Enough.
so
No,
great.
I was laughing at That's Enough, not Miracle Mile, but yeah.
Oh,
But no, that's an awesome list, Winslow. That's a lot of
that's a great list.
fantastic films on there.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
with
brilliant.
that being said, what is your number 8, Leon?
My number 8 is the Lucky McKee film May. This is the second site release that came out this year. I got to cover this because I got like a screener for like the website a review blueprint, and it was just like a blind watch because I'd heard of the film but I hadn't seen it. I watched it and it's like instantly jumped up to one of my like I. It's a film I basically consider a modern classic at this point. It came out about 20 years ago, and it's directed by Lucky McKee, who very very good friends with a one Ryan Johnson, and Ryan Johnson actually edited this film. He was one of the three
Oh, interesting.
credited editors on the film, and yeah, Lucky McKee's he's went on to direct stuff like he directed the late 2000s film The Woman, which is a great horror film that I'd highly recommend. That has like kind of like a Raimi-esque feel to it, but not in a comedic way. But
Hmm.
like in terms of the filmmaking, it's a very Raimi-esque, really interesting. But yeah, May basically follows the character of May, who is a very socially awkward, like young woman in her 20s who works at kind of a veterinarian place, and she's very isolated from the world. She doesn't really form human connections very well, and she becomes obsessed with this one guy called Adam because she walks past him as he's working at like a garage or something, and she notices his hands, and she becomes fixated on his hands, which is very strange, but it's also in her mindset. She really craves this kind of like affection, attention, and just like any sort of human connection. So it's actually really tragic. And yeah, this film basically just follows her as she develops a relationship with this person, and she comes into her own as a human being. I don't really want to give away too much more, but it's kind of a multi-genre-esque film. Like there's a bit of a drama in there. It's very funny, like intentionally, like absolutely hilarious at times. And then without giving too much away, kind of delves into the horror genre in a really interesting way and parallels some like classic Universal monsters films in a way that I really wasn't expecting on my first viewing. It's beautiful. I've showed it to so many people this year already. I think I've seen it like 4 or 5 times. Like I keep going back to it because I just absolutely love it. And yeah, no, it is great. One of my favorite things about the film is the guy she's obsessed with, Adam. He's a big horror head himself, and there's multiple times where she'll go to his house, and he's bear in mind this is a film from the 2000s, so like I kind of would expect it more from a modern film, but this guy's just obsessed with Argento to the point that it's kind of comical. Like he's got like a massive poster in his wall that's just the opera poster, and he's got like fake knives, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go catch a late night screening of Trauma at the local multiplex, and I'm like, why is Trauma playing at your local multiplex? What's going on? But my favorite thing is he's also an aspiring filmmaker, and he creates this like short film called Jack and Jill, which almost feels like a I think it's Jack and Jill or something along those lines, or Adam and Eve, sorry, Adam and Eve, and it feels like an early John Waters thing. I know you watched Multiple Maniacs recently.
I
It's
did, yeah.
basically like a low budget Multiple Maniacs short that we
Okay.
see him create about this like couple who fall in love with each other and just eat each other to death, and it's playing with some really like comical like John Waters-esque classical music, but there is a visual joke, and so for most people, no one laughs when I show it them, but it kills me every time because he's so into Italian films. He ends it with his director credit in Italian at the end in black and white, and I'm like, for fuck's sake. It's like the funniest
Like
thing in
un
the world
film
to me.
D, like whatever
Yes,
his name is.
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so funny. I love it. May is hilarious. I'd really like to show it you sometime. Actually, I
Great.
think
Yeah.
it's a great film to show to people. It's really fun, and I don't know. I love it. I kind of want to put it higher, but there's just films that I think I loved a little bit more this year.
Okay.
But this is definitely one that I it's one of those films where you watch it and you just want to show it to everybody in the world type thing. That's
Yeah.
May for me. I love
Yeah.
it.
That's awesome because the way the comedy angle to it is interesting too because the way you I remember you pitched it to me like on one of our first few streams as like female taxi driver,
Yes,
which
yes,
is
in
a
a lot
great
of
premise in
ways, yeah.
itself, right? Like it's like kind of that isolation and lack of connectivity leading to kind of darker things, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, that's really I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. Yeah,
Oh, it's so good. It's really, really like interesting how it's able to weave all of these different genres that are so different. Like obviously you've got like comedy horrors out there and stuff. Like mixing those two genres together is like quite an easy pairing, really. You can make a really funny comedy, a horror film, sorry, or something along those lines. But mixing kind of like that personal kind of character study-esque like drama into there while still maintaining a level of humor that like it acknowledging the awkwardness of this entire scenario and just how weird it is. Because like I don't watch Taxi Driver and I'm like laughing at Travis Bickle. I'm just like, this is disturbing more than
yeah,
anything. But
yeah,
May finds a way to kind of weave that like humor into it, where it's not poking fun at the character, but it's like this is a silly scenario, isn't it?
sure.
And then you've also got like that like shift into like more like darker themes and like the like horror aspects of the film, which are just so creative in their own way too, which obviously I've only seen like 2 films from Lucky McKee, but he's really great at weaving those like drama aspects into like a horror film that is really excellent. Like
Cool.
even though I wouldn't go into May saying, oh, it's a horror film or anything, like it's got those aspects, but just like how it's able to execute the section of the film that really relies on those is really impressive, given what came before it. But yeah, no,
Awesome.
it's great. I love it.
Cool. I can't wait to check that out.
Oh, it's so
We got a
good.
couple comments here. So Winslow says, do you guys have any favorite film critics to read? Also saw Ferrari yesterday. Man's back. I know Leon
Bars.
agrees. I have not seen Ferrari yet.
Oh, you gotta
Because
see it.
I've been on a trip for a couple of days, and I probably won't see it before I make my end of the year list. But I'm sure I'll probably go back and add it on there. I'm really
Yeah.
hoping it's going to be like top 10 or close to
Oh,
retrospectively.
it's so
But
good.
yeah.
It's so good.
And then for me, as far as any film critics that I read, so like contemporary ones, I do like to read on Letterboxd. Josh Lewis is one of my favorite writers. You know, his stuff is great. In terms of like older film critics, though, I love to, even when I really disagree with her about things, I love to read Pauline Kael. I think she's like just one of the best like analytical film critics. Just not like her stuff is not necessarily, if you're reading film criticism to determine like should you go see this movie, it's probably not what you're looking for. But if you just want to read an interesting take that's going to like connect to the history of the time period and kind of other films at the time, I think she's so great to read. And yeah, so those are a couple of mine.
That's awesome. For me, Commode, obviously, I love Commode.
Yeah.
He's incredible. Again, similar to how you were mentioned with Pauline. I don't always agree with his takes. I think he's got some fascinating takes. I'll say that. Like, I know he loves the Minions and Despicable Me. I don't know why, but I'm glad he does. Like, he's got some very interesting takes that I really just kind of disagree with on almost every level. But there's never a point where I don't understand his perspective, and that's what I really love about Commode. Like, he's really great at kind of emphasizing how he feels about film and why, if this film is the greatest film in the world, why it's the greatest film in the world. Like, I myself, I think I've mentioned this before. Well, you definitely know, I'm not a huge fan of The Exorcist, like the original Exorcist film. I respect it, but I'm not a huge fan. I've seen it twice, but I've read through Mark Commode's BFI like film classics book on why he loves the film so much, and more importantly, why it's a great film in a technical level and like the backstory, all of that stuff. And I understand why he loves it so much. And it's very rare that a film critic can kind of do that, can kind of sway you into almost like not going against your opinion, but like understanding why, at least in their perspective, why something is so good, even if like you don't really like agree on a lot of levels. And that's not to say I think The Exorcist is bad. I'm just very in the middle with it. But yeah, no, Commode is great. And in terms of like contemporary critics, Josh Lewis is a great shout. I've got two. Silent Dawn on Letterboxd. I love Silent Dawn. He's fantastic. He's got some really again interesting takes. He gives Grown Ups 2 a 9 out of 10, but I completely understand why he gives it a 9 out of 10, even though there's very few people in the world who probably do. But someone I really love, I want to give a shout out to. And he doesn't post like full reviews. It's more just kind of like a brief like paragraph or two. But I love hearing what he's got to say. Is Justin LaLiberty, who he's basically the head of a lot of the partner labels over at Vinegar Syndrome, and he like works closely with Vinegar Syndrome's like production line. And yeah, his letterbox is really fascinating. He mostly dives into a lot of cult cinema and stuff, but he'll write like a paragraph or two about a film every time he sees it, and he's a fascinating read. Like one of my favorite people to like check if I'm like, oh, I want to see if he likes it, or I wonder who likes it. If he likes it, I'll probably give it a shot because he's got great taste that really aligns with me, and also I just love hearing his takes. So yeah, I'd say those two on Letterboxd. Yeah, Justin Liberty is awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. And
I'll
do one more comment, and then I'll get to my number 8. So we got Josh here. Hey, how's it going? So he says, yeah, hey fellas, hope you both had a good Christmas. You too, Josh. Best first time watch has to be Burning by Li Chang-dong. Just a perfect film for me. I haven't seen that yet. I missed that when it came out in 2018, but I'm really looking forward to checking it out. I've almost watched it a bunch of times. I think the thing that just put me off like from watching it in a given day is just that it's kind of long, but like I'm sure I won't mind. Like,
I really want to see that. I'd really like to see that. Yeah, I hope you're doing well, Josh, also, man.
Yeah, you too. I mean, well, I also hope he's doing well. Yeah, no, not yeah. I'm not Josh,
Yeah.
but okay. So my number 8 is Police Story, the first one.
Yes.
So
Oh God.
yeah, so I'm sure for a lot of people, this is probably a film. This might have been a lot of people's like, oh, nice, nice. You own it twice.
Oh.
You own it twice, yeah? Or
No, I own it 3 times. I own the Criterion as well.
nice.
It
But
was so good.
yeah, I think for a lot of people, it definitely would have been like an introduction to foreign language cinema. I mean, it's
Yes.
very yeah. I mean, like Jackie Chan, like for me was kind of an introduction to martial arts, even with his American films like Rush Hour back in the day. And so
Yeah.
I've for the longest time I had wanted to get into his actual like Hong Kong stuff, and I just hadn't before. So yeah, I started with I watched Police Story 1 and 2. I haven't seen Super Cop yet, but the second one I thought was pretty good, but the first one is just like one of the best action movies ever made, and it's
Yeah.
maybe the closest thing I've seen to Buster Keaton in terms of like real stunts, kind of
Yeah.
in modern times, just like what he did to his body. Like it, for example, like I think he gave himself like second or third degree burns in that like electrical like
Oh, like
slide thing
sliding down the thing
on
near
all
the
those
end.
lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's and of
Insane.
course like the bus scene, like
Oh, the
I
bus.
could just like name amazing set pieces from this, but I also just want to give a shout out to the fact that it is so funny. Like
Oh God, yeah, it's a
like when
great
it's not
comedy.
doing those, when it's not like doing those physical action sequences, like the courtroom scene, like the entire way that they build that up to just like what could be a throwaway joke, but that kind of makes it really funny in itself. It's just he's just a master at physical comedy,
Oh
and
God,
I
yeah.
don't know,
What
it had been on my list forever. I just absolutely loved it. No.
I really remember, like, one of the great bits of like physical comedy in that film I remember is he's like stuck doing like desk work at one point, and he's got like 17 different calls coming in at the same time, and he's trying to like navigate through like the office with
Yeah.
each phone call to like help with everybody's crises. And I'm like, oh my God, this is great. It's like it's not just the action in that film that's memorable, like you were saying, it's like a genuinely great comedy film too. Like
Yeah,
I
and like the scene
really,
with
really
the
liked
the
it.
the woman in it, like when they first like get into, I forget if it's her apartment or his apartment, but they
I
have
think
the
it's
whole,
yeah.
yeah, like that stuff is so awkward and so funny.
Oh, it's
Um,
great.
yeah, and I also, I mean, like I've also listened to the theme song that he does that plays on the credits. That if
Yes.
people don't know, that was also sung by Jackie Chan. It's super
Yes.
catchy. I don't speak Cantonese, but I do love the way it sounds, and it's just so cool. Like how much of Jackie Chan's DNA is in that film, like from in the
Oh
directing and
God, yeah.
the acting and the performance for the song and everything. So
Yeah.
it's just like one of the most impressive like individual efforts I think in film history, really.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. It's like tied favorite Chan for me. Like the one film that kind of overtakes it a little bit is where is it? Where is it? Oh, there it is. My favorite Chan film that I'd highly recommend is Dragons Forever. I think Dragons Forever is absolutely fantastic. It's got a lot of that kind of like the like comedic nature of Police Story, but it also ties. It also brings three names together. I'm absolutely awful with names. I know one of them, Sammo Hung. I don't know if you're aware of Sammo Hung. He's like a classic kind of like figure from that era too. He worked with a lot of like he worked in a lot of Chan films, and then there's I want to say like Yao Bien, I think his name is. I've probably butchered that, but he's another kind of notable like star in Hong Kong cinema from that period. And it basically pairs the trio together and delivers some of the greatest action sequences I've ever seen put to film. But it also has that like absolutely hilarious nature of something like Police Story and it's like
Mhm.
opening like half and everything. But yeah, there's like a set piece in the last like 20 minutes of this film, which is just absolutely mind blowing. But you can
Cool.
say that for so many of Chan's films from that era, and like again, yeah, a lot of people, like you said, are gonna know him from his like American films, Rush Hour, stuff like that. But if you are a fan of those type of films, you kind of owe it to yourself to go check out like Police Story and some of these like earlier works because they're so excellent, and they're like they're so much better than the American stuff.
Oh
Like they're
yeah,
just
no, no.
they're
I still have a
so
soft
much
spot
better.
for Rush Hour. Like there's some problematic like race or racial stuff to it. Like not just
Yeah.
in the, I mean just in the sense of like Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker like play it up and stuff, but it's a little easy for me in terms of the comedy. but
Yeah.
just the stunts in it, I still think are great, and I do
Oh
go
God,
back and
yeah.
watch it. But
I'm
Brady's
I'm
story
I'm a
is so
defender
much
of.
better. Yeah,
Oh God, yeah. I'm a defender of Rush Hour 2. I think Rush Hour 2 is better than
I love Rush Hour 2
fantastic.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah, Rush
yeah,
Hour 2 is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, but yeah, no,
Well,
great
yeah.
pick.
What is your number 7? Just trying to get down the
My
list a
number
little.
7. Let me go get my list again because I've got a pile here, but I can't remember if this is actually number 7.
Okay.
One moment. Come on, load. Think it's
I will
number
say real quick.
7.
I'll just read a comment real quick while you're looking. Josh says, hopefully seeing Ferrari soon. Next watch for me in terms of new releases is Perfect Days if I can find it. Yeah,
Awesome.
that's new Vim Vendors, I want to say. With yeah,
Maybe.
when I forget how you pronounce his name, but it's
I think it's like Vim. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's I think I could be wrong. I think it stars the guy from Cure, the main actor, who
Ooh,
plays the detective in it. So
nice.
I'm actually quite excited to check that out as well, Josh. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I got my film. It was here. My number 7, and this again could go higher. Like so many of these films, it's so difficult to like really like pinpoint like where they'd really go on the list. But I was talking to this briefly with you before, about this with you briefly before. But my number 7 is the direct-to-video action modern classic, Universal Soldier: Day
Nice.
of Reckoning, with this really cool like
Oh, is that
thingy.
the 3D poster kind of, or
It's kind of like a 3D slipcover. I forget what you call these. Like
yeah,
I can't remember the name for these kind of slipcovers, but
yeah.
amazing
My
release. But
parents
yeah,
have one of those for the original Top Gun. It's like a 3D Blu-ray, and it has one of those. But yeah,
oh, that's awesome. I do know that Universal Soldier was in 3D. Like they did release it on like 3D Blu-ray. This is just a regular Blu-ray though, I'm pretty sure.
okay.
But I know that there is a 3D one. But yeah, no, Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning. So the first Universal Soldier film is directed by Roland Emmerich. That there's enough
Oh
said
yeah,
there. I don't need to say anything else. It's not a very good film. I know it's got kind of like its audience of like
sure.
dads around the world. It's very much
Yeah.
like a dad movie, which is
Well,
okay. I've seen
90s
it.
or whatever Roland Emmerich is very different from modern Roland Emmerich, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't
he
know.
is and he isn't. I mean, I kind of like Independence Day, but yeah,
Yeah, he's fine. He's not like the worst filmmaker ever, but I'm not like a huge fan of his work.
yeah,
And then I basically I was just really excited to see John Wick Chapter 4, and I saw an image of Scott Adkins in that film, and I was like, this looks amazing. Who is this man? I want to know more. So
yeah.
before seeing John Wick 4, I kind of went on a bit of a Scott Adkins binge, and I started with the most well-regarded film he's made or starred in, which is Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning, which is technically Universal Soldier 6, but in the continuity of the franchise, it's Universal Soldier 4, I think, because they kind of like did the whole retcon thing. They had a few directed like TV films, and then there was like a actual sequel, and then they did 2 films with this director. I think it's John Hames. Yeah, John
Yeah,
Himes or
Hyams, yeah,
something.
who
And
might have an honorable mention on my best of the year list for this year with
oh,
Sick.
nice.
But yeah.
Nice. He directed the prior film, which I've yet to see, Universal Soldier Regeneration. But I went into this because I'd heard it's fairly standalone. You're not going to be too lost going into it. So yeah, I watched it on a whim with Brady, and oh my god. This film is one of the most insane things I think I've ever seen from like modern action. It's great. It's like just calling it an action film is almost a bit of an understatement, really, because well, it has some of my favorite action set pieces in like maybe like modern action of the past 20, any like action films of the past 20 years. It's got so much more going for it. It opens with this like first person home invasion scene, which I can only describe as like a parallel to Funny Games. Like it feels like
Wow.
Funny Games. That's how this
Okay.
film opens in a really graphic and brutal fashion, which is kind of completely missing the point of Funny Games, but that's okay. Anyway, yeah, so it opens with this really graphic scene of this unnamed character seeing his loved ones murdered in front of him, and it's horrible, and it's really horrible. And then he's basically kind of figuring out, oh, I want to find out what happened. I want to find out who did this and everything. And he gets mixed up in this world, this alternate world that's going on with Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme, who have apparently, I believe they've time traveled or something to a different universe, and now Jean-Claude Van Damme's essentially playing Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. He's playing a crazy lunatic who's commanding this army of people who want to go and murder Scott Adkins' character. Dolph Lundgren's going around to strip clubs having sex with people while Gaspar Noé lighting is everywhere in the environment. There's like Terminator-ass people everywhere. There's these amazing long, like one-take action sequences. It's insane. It's one of the most gonzo fucking action things I've seen, maybe ever. It's so visceral. It's so vile. It's so violent. It's so entertaining. It has one of my favorite car chases, maybe ever. And then it's immediately followed by one of the greatest, like, hand-to-hand physical fight scenes I've maybe ever seen in my entire life. It's a roller coaster. It's amazing. It's a film that's equal shades inspired by, again, Coppola and fucking Gaspar Noé. Like, where are you gonna see that in any other film? It's insane. Absolutely brilliant film. I love it, love it, love it. I if you're into action, you have to see this film. Again, you don't even need to really see the other films. Just read a quick plot synopsis, because you're not gonna be very lost. It's a very self-contained story that works like as a standalone film. But Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning is amazing, and that's my number 7. Oh, it's so
Awesome.
good.
I've been wanting to check that out for a while, and really just wanting to get more into Scott Adkins' work ever since I saw John Wick Chapter 4. Another one of his I want to check out, I don't know if you've seen it, is Avengement. 2019.
Avengement's awesome. I love Avengement.
Yeah, I've heard that one's really good as well. So yeah, I do want to get it. He's kind of like the king of just like modern direct-to-video action movies in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Like if you ever need Scott Adkins recommendations, let me know. I must have seen, like, in that binge that lead up to like John Wick Chapter 4. I'm not kidding when I say I watched like 15 Scott Adkins films in like the space of a week. And I was like, this guy rocks. I'll watch anything with him in. He's so good. Like The Debt Collector, The Debt Collector 2, they're both great. One Shot's great. It's an action film which is like 90 minutes long, and it's
One
all
shot.
filmed as
Yeah.
if it's in one shot. Oh,
Yep.
it's great. Avengement's great. Accident Man 2. The first Accident Man's okay. That's like based off a comic book that he really likes, but Accident Man 2 is awesome. Yeah, he's great, like direct to video action star. I really, really hope that John Wick Chapter 4 kind of leads to more high profile things for him, because the man deserves it. He's so good.
I think he's gonna get it now. I think this was kind of his big, like, kind of, I want to say big break. I mean, he's probably been making a lot of money and having a lot of success in the direct-to-video market, but I think someone should like put him in a legit, like, someone should make him the lead in like a $20 million action movie or something like that.
Yeah. God, yeah.
Well, my number 7 is Sorcerer by William Friedkin.
Ooh, Friedkin.
We very sadly lost this year. So for anyone unfamiliar with this, this is I forget to the extent to which it's actually a remake, but it's basically a remake of a 50s film called The Wages of Fear, directed by Henri Georges Clouzot, which is a story about these people in South America who can live kind of like precarious lives in this town that's connected to it's like the economy of the town is connected to a U.S. oil rig, and one day this rig has an explosion, and I didn't know this, but scientifically the best thing to do to put out a like an oil fire is dynamite, which seems very counterintuitive, but that's apparently true scientifically. So these people have dynamites. They know that there's some dynamite stored like across the jungle, like about 200 miles away. So they all team together, pile in a truck to go get it, and they have to transport this unstable dynamite back to the camp so that they can put out the fire for this oil company. It is a very different film from Wages of Fear, even though plot-wise it's fairly similar. The biggest thing that it changes is that Wages of Fear doesn't really give you anything about the background of the characters before they get to South America. It's like it's pretty much just their interaction. You get to kind of know them like through their interactions in the town, whereas Sorcerer has like this 20 or 30-minute opening that kind of cuts to it, like shows their different backgrounds. Like one of them's from the U.S., one of them's from France, one of them's from I think Israel, and another is from Mexico or something like that. And yeah, it just kind of shows their like these very like kind of espionage or like political violent existences that they led in their own countries and why they had to flee. And then it shows how kind of through, you know, like after they fled there, they can't really escape their circumstances, because the thing that I and most people really love about the film is how thrilling the actual truck sequence is. Like with them transporting the dynamite and everything. There's this very famous sequence that occurs on a rope bridge where it's pouring down rain and they have to transport this huge truck on this really rickety bridge across this river. It's incredibly thrilling stuff. The whole thing is just like white knuckle, like right up until the end. It's really bleak and kind of nihilistic towards its characters, but I think kind of you know, it's the way it kind of brings out those like fatalistic ideas, I just think is really cool. And yeah, I mean, like I wanted to include something from Friedkin. This actually might be my favorite Friedkin film. I do love The Exorcist, and I do love other stuff I've seen from him, like Cruising and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think this is my favorite one that I've seen. Yeah, can't recommend this enough.
Oh, that's brilliant. I've seen some of Sorcerer and loved what I'd seen, but I was also very tired, and I was like, I want to give this devote my full attention to this film. I do not want to just like kind of like watch it just for the sake of watching it. I want to fully like absorb it as it was. But what I've seen of Sorcerer is like excellent.
Yeah,
like I really loved what I'd seen. So I'd really like to see that, as well as what's the film it's based off of again?
the Wages of Fear.
Wages of Fear. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's longer. It's about 30 minutes longer, I want to say. It is. I know people that. So I kind of have this debate with a few friends going on. I prefer Sorcerer like ever so slightly. Like it's just
Okay.
And for me, it is just kind of like how. And I didn't even mention as well, the Tangerine Dream score really helps with the kind of tense nature of everything. But I think it just reaches a level of like tense thrillerness, if that makes any sense, tension in as a thriller that Wages of Fear comes close to, but doesn't quite get at for me. But you could argue that Wages of Fear is a better like character movie, I guess.
Okay, yeah. I'd really love to like sit down and fully watch them both. I know Wages of Fear is getting a 4K from the BFI in a couple of months, which is really interesting. So
Cool.
I might see if I can pick that up or something and then check that out at some point. But you know, Friedkin, what a guy,
Yeah, rest in peace.
R.I.P.
I'm gonna read a couple of comments and then I'll throw to you for your number 6. I think, Ron.
Absolutely.
Josh says other favorites from this year include Earth Mama, which I think that's a this year film, or I haven't gotten around to that yet. Boogie Nights, Three Colors Trilogy.
Boogie Nights is excellent.
Yep. Virgin Suicides, Vox Lux, and At Eternity's Gate. I really do want to see At Eternity's Gate. I think that's the Vincent Van Gogh one with Willem Dafoe.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a cool choice.
I really want to see that. Awesome, man.
And then we have in the front row, how's it going? And she's saying, here to show some love, Jackson. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. Yeah. So with that, Leon, what is your number 6?
Well, I'm gonna switch things up a little bit. We're gonna talk from one author to another author. So coming in at number 6 for me is the William Friedkin film Killer Joe.
Oh, nice. That's a good segue. Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as you mentioned Sorcerer, I was like, "This is perfect." This is perfect. Yes. So
we exchanged lists, but I don't think we exchanged like the order of them or anything. So
no,
we kind of ordered them differently. Yeah. But
yeah, this is going to be a surprise for you, then, because there's some films. I that was a great pairing going from Sorcerer to Killer Joe. Yeah, so I watched Killer Joe after like months of talking about it with Brady, because we both, well, I say months, probably years of talking about wanting to watch this film, and we were like, you know something, we're just going to watch it. I think it was on Tubi Canada or something. I was like, it's time. We're finally watching it. I decided. And so me and Brady sat down to watch Killer Joe. And Killer Joe is easily the most insane thing Friedkin ever made, which I have currently seen. It is a neo-noir film that, like, let me actually find, like, what's the tagline?
You almost got
So
me to watch this during November, I think.
I
Yeah.
really want to watch it with you. I really want to watch it just to hear your reaction. The tagline for this film is a totally deep-fried Texas redneck trailer park murder story. That's
Nice.
the tagline. It's insane. So this basically follows a family with Gina Gershon, Thomas Hayden Church, and I forget the actor's name, but the kid who plays Speed Racer in Speed Racer.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember his
Emil
name, but
Hirsch.
yeah.
Emil
Okay.
Hirsch, that's it. Yeah, and basically, it's this family who, yeah, they're rednecks, they live in a trailer, all of that stuff. They are not getting by. So basically, they come up with this theory to murder a family member so they can get the insurance money, like, from killing her.
Oh, is it
And
like
they
that
just
used to
want it.
happen a lot in like the that's actually like something that would happen a lot in like the Great Depression. People would do like life insurance fraud and stuff like that. But
But,
you're saying it
but
was on a family member?
it's on a family member because Emil Hirsch owes like $2,000 to some loan shark. So he wants to kill his grandmother or something. so, so he can pay that off. It's so stupid. The film like relies entirely on you just finding every character pathetic in the film, and if you're on board for that, it is the funniest, maybe the funniest film I saw this year. Like I laugh really hard at stuff like Beau is Afraid, but Killer Joe like had me like in tears at so many points by just how idiotic the characters are. Like Thomas Hayden Church gives the funniest performance maybe of the 2010s in Killer Joe. He is so funny. I've never really seen him be funny. I know him as like Sandman in
Yes, I know him as
Spider-Man 3.
Sandman. It's that's
Yeah,
odd.
but
Yeah.
so it's just seeing him play this like this guy who just lives in a trailer with like a wife who clearly doesn't care about him, a son who doesn't like him. It's like, oh, it's so funny. But in order to kind of go through with this plan, they basically want they want an undercover police officer to basically help them kind of help basically make this happen. He's going to commit the murder, and then things will go on. And that police officer is played by Matthew McConaughey, who this is right before he really blew up, like with Murder and like all of those big films, which really kind of like changed his changed like him from going into like the rom-com era where he was just in like every romantic
Right.
comedy
Yeah,
type
exactly.
thing. The whatever it's called.
McConaughey's, I think.
Some
McConaughey's. I think that's it.
reconnaissance. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Right before that, and yeah, if you've only seen him from like the romantic comedies of the 2000s and stuff, Jesus Christ, he is vile, despicable, disgusting, like everything you could expect from like a gross Friedkin character. It's there and more. He has this weird dynamic with the sister of that family, or like the daughter of Thomas Hayden Church, who I believe her character's in her 20s, but she has like the mindset of a 12-year-old. And like, I don't want to say anything else, but there's some weird shit that goes on with her and Matthew McConaughey. So there's like this film borders on like being really disgusting, like vile and horrible, but also really fucking funny if you can tolerate how disgusting it is.
Is this
Um,
is this a reference to the film or
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So without spoiling the film,
Yeah, don't spoil it, but yeah.
there is just a scene in the climax of the film involving a piece of chicken, and it is
Okay.
I don't
All
even
right.
know where to really go with this. Mark Commode did a Q&A with Friedkin after the film came out, and he audibly said to Friedkin's face, "You took it too far. That is disgusting." And Commode loves Friedkin. That scene is insane, and it's so gross, it's so vile, it's sickening, but there's this level of humor to it that I can't even describe without sounding like a madman. You've got to witness it. Killer Joe is by far my favorite Friedkin film. It is almost like I can almost guarantee it's the polar opposite of something like Sorcerer. Like it's the polar opposite. Like Sorcerer is like a traditionally well-crafted masterwork.
Right.
Killer Joe is just vile and disgusting. But there's something about it which I just had such a great time with when I wasn't wanting to throw up from how disgusting it is. It is
All right.
it's glorious. It's definitely not for everyone, but I think it's easily Friedkin's best film. It's Friedkin's funniest film. And oh, there's just something about it. There's just something about watching really shitty characters have bad things happen to them that I really love in films. So
You
no,
have a
Killer
whole tag
Joe
for
is
this. Is it things goes wrong? Things go
it
wrong
is.
or
It's
whatever? Yeah.
every. It all
Everything
goes
goes wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
That tag is. I think I created that tag when I watched Killer Joe and then retroactively added it to stuff because I was like,
Yeah.
this subgenre is like my favorite thing in the world. Killer Joe is incredible, and it's also got great performances as well. Like it's just really ridiculous and funny. But like Gina Gershon is giving an amazing performance in that film. Like she's so fucking committed to it, and she does things that are really like it's asking a lot of like any actor to, whether they're in like some like exploitation film from the 70s or just like a high profile actor. There are things in that film but I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, I don't know how Friedkin got away with that. But no, amazing film, but
Awesome.
not for everyone.
That's I can't wait to check it out. Honestly, just the more I get into Friedkin, the more I want to check that one out for sure.
It's so good.
My let's see, we're at 6. Yeah, my number 6 is a little bit more of like an elegant like classic or whatever you would think, more than Killer Joe. And that is A Man Escaped by Robert Bresson.
Nice.
So I think this is like his most famous or well-known film, up there with like Au Hazard, Balthazar. But yeah, he's a French filmmaker, and this is essentially about it's kind of the classic like prison escape movie. Before Shawshank Redemption was a thing, like 40 years later. But it follows this like prisoner of war character. I believe it's set during World War II. It's like Nazi occupied France sort of thing, if I remember right. And the film is a very kind of like stripped down, like minimal, but really technically well done look at process. Like the way it's maybe the best. It's got to be like top 5 like sound design of any movie I've ever seen. Like just in the way that it uses like, it's a very quiet film for the most part, but in how quiet it is. I mean, there's sequences where the main character is, for example, I think he's like taking pieces of wood out of like bed frames or things like that to try and like build a tool to help escape. But the prison is so quiet that it's really difficult to do that without getting caught. So he's doing it very kind of like thoughtfully, and the way that the sound design kind of cuts into it is really, really kind of unnerving. So despite the fact that it doesn't have a lot of these like bombastic like filmmaking elements, it really, really works as kind of like a white knuckle thriller. And I think this Benny Safdie or Josh Safdie, one of them said this in their Criterion Closet video. It's the best film of all time that spoils itself in the title. It's like you kind of know exactly what's going to happen going into it, but the whole time you're like, wait, is he gonna do it? Is he gonna do it? Like it's a very simple film, but just when you kind of break down how it's shot, the sound design, the formal elements of it, I think it's just really, really intricate and fantastic. Yeah, so that's my number 6.
Yeah, I remember watching the Safdie's like Criterion Closet video and them giving that a shout out, and that was the first time it ever came up on my radar, and I've had it on my watch list since I seen that video, since I watched that video. So I'll have to check that out. That sounds great. Yep,
absolutely. And Winslow, it's got the Winslow approval as well, so that's a good sign. Of course. Cool. So that's number 6 for me. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is this is very classy. It's Sean Baker's Red Rocket.
Oh, I love that film. Oh, so good.
Red Rocket, oh my god. I think I watched it based on your recommendation of just how much you loved Red Rocket. Ed Brady had watched it a couple of months prior. He really loved it. And I was like, okay, I need to see this. I need to see this. Red Rocket, I think I've seen it twice now. Is oh my god. First off, Simon Rex deserved an Oscar. He deserved at least a
Yeah,
nomination for that film. He gives one of the best performances of the past couple of years, in my opinion. He is so committed to playing this like piece of shit scumbag who you kind of love, like in
yeah,
a
yeah. I mean,
way.
you definitely
You
like you find him funny, and you can understand like he's charming. You can kind of understand how he charms his way back into people's lives, like
yes,
after being kicked out,
yeah,
because kind of is
yeah,
implied that at the
he's an
start of the film
awful
he's
person.
already trying to like get back into a broken relationship with somebody that he's already probably fucked over before. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, exactly. It is a film that like it's I it kind of borders on that it all goes wrong. I don't know if you agree. Like, a kind of
but by
maybe.
the end, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
yeah,
kind of an all goes wrong, but it's more instead of just like kind of a traditional like decline, it's like it all goes wrong because of this character. Like, sometimes you'll watch a film where everything goes wrong, but it's not due to the decisions these characters are making, and you're like, this is kind of heartbreaking why it's going wrong. But no, this guy deserves every bad thing that occurs to him. He is a very he's kind of a scummy, awful human being with the most charisma and the most personality out of any scumbag out there, really.
yeah.
He's really fascinating. The general premise, for those who haven't seen it, he's like an ex like retired like porn star, and he moves back to is it Texas?
It's Texas. I think it's Texas City, Texas, which is a real place. But my family's from Texas. I've been all over, but it's a pretty. I think it's on the coast or something.
Okay.
It's like not the most well known place, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he moves back to Texas to go live with his like ex-wife, who like I don't even know if they've like fully divorced. They're kind of still married, I think, but
there
he just like
technically are. Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
they just don't really get along. They don't see eye to eye, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna get a job and I'm gonna support you guys financially and everything." And then you basically just watch this guy just like sell drugs to get by, and it's like this really fascinating look at just like, I don't know, this guy who really wants to, like, at first you think he really wants to better his life, even though the opportunities, like everything he's trying to do, like he's trying to get a job at like fast food places, just work somewhere, but
yeah.
because of his career he's not getting there, and you're
Right.
like, oh, this guy, he's a bit scuzzy, but maybe he's genuine, maybe he's like a
Yeah,
guy who maybe you can root for. I don't know, maybe he's
yeah.
he's
Well, it's like
providing for this family.
because
It's
I feel like that general scenario of like trying to get a job but you can't because of your past history, like with him as a porn star, it's like you can sympathize with that. But
yeah,
then like what he does, later on in the film, like with what the relationship he
yes.
pursues and what he's trying to get her into, is you lose any previous like sympathies you had with them. Like, yeah,
Exactly, yeah, because it's like it builds up for the first like 40 to 50 minutes of a film, and you're like, this is a really interesting character portrait. If you've seen like the Florida Project or something, it's a bit more like focused like as an actual narrative instead of more just like a day in the life or days in the life in something like Florida Project. It feels like, okay, this is actually building to something, and maybe this character actually is more than what like he initially seemed. And then he goes to get donuts for his family at some place, and becomes attracted to a teenager and starts trying to hit on a teenager.
yep,
And
yep,
then you're like, no, this guy fucking sucks. This
yep.
guy's awful.
Oh yeah,
And then the rest of the film is just this weird blend of like, I don't even know if I want to say cringe comedy, but it's very it kind of has that like
it's
cringe
very
comedy
funny.
factor to it,
Yeah,
like because like a lot of the humor just derives from how disgustingly gross and uncomfortable almost everything you're watching is. But I know this film had a lot of controversy around the time it came out, because it was like Licorice Pizza, where people read into these films and like, oh, these characters are sick, but this is what the filmmaker supports. I do not for a minute buy that, and I think reading into the film like that is like a really just kind of like simplistic way of looking at something like Red Rocket, because I don't know if you agree, like I assume you do agree, but the film never sympathizes with his character. Like it
No.
never once like says, oh, he's a good guy or anything. No, like the film
But it's
tackles
not
some
trying to hold your
really
hand about how you're supposed to feel about it. Like I think it trusts its audience to be like, okay, like we
yeah.
see this guy for what he is, you know, like
Yeah, and it's a really kind of like bold risk, especially in the modern landscape of cinema, where it, I don't know, like a lot of films nowadays are almost too afraid to kind of take that risk and like just let the audience just no, okay, you read into this how you want, but there is very clearly something, there's very clearly like an end goal. You're not supposed to like this character, but you can still find this character fascinating. You can still want to understand what is going through his mind. You still want to understand where he like lead, like where it ends up and everything. But like, oh my god, it is such a great blend of just this like really like again cringe comedy kind of thing, just a really icky like Jesus Christ factor, but it's also just like a really beautiful film at the same time. It's shot on 16 mil. It has like this real like saturated look to it, which looks fucking gorgeous. And also there's another thing. I'm gonna say I don't fully understand this, but I'm also not like a hugely like tapped into the like political landscape. But it's set right during like the 2016 elections as
mhm.
well. And I actually wanted to ask, what do you read out of that? Like, what's your take on that? Because I'm really fascinated as someone who I I can see it's going for something, but I'm not fully there because I'm not like too like caught up in like American politics, especially around
Sure.
that time. So what do you get out of that? Because I know there's definitely something going on there that
So I
find
know what
fascinating.
Sean Baker has said about it, that it's basically it's the reason he said it then was because it was relatively recent. Like everyone kind of knows what they were doing and what life was like for them, what it felt like in the summer of 2016, and
Yeah,
so the political stuff kind of filled that background. But I think if you want to read into it more, you know, politically, I think it can. I think actually the film does kind of capture a lot of like very like kind of egotistical, selfish, like money mindset attitudes that,
yeah,
like, for lack of a better term, won Trump the election. You know what I mean? Like it's like
yeah.
it's
That's
very
fair.
it does kind of tap into uniquely, or not uniquely, but like, you know, um, noteworthily American ideas in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
and it's kind of like loosely critiquing these. But I think Sean Baker is very like elegant in the way that he does it. It's not like bashing you over the head with politics or
no.
anything. It's just in the background. So yeah,
I do really like when he gets his first like sale from like selling weed or whatever, and he buys like rolling papers that have got the American flag on.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
totally.
distinctly
Yeah,
remember that as like a visual
those are
that's
fun.
really striking. It's
Yeah,
like yeah, oh, it's great. Yeah, Red Rocket is just fantastic. It's a film that again I don't know if everyone's gonna love, but I think it's really funny. It's really gorgeous, really striking. Has an amazing couple of uses of the song "Bye Bye Bye" in a multitude of ways, which I fucking love. Like
it's so good.
there is one scene in particular in the last like 20 minutes involving that, which is hilarious and amazing. And I was second guessing. I was like, is that real? And then I googled it, and I was like, it's not real. And I was like, damn. But yeah, no, Red Rocket's
Yeah.
great. I love it. Sean, I can't wait to see whatever Sean Baker does next, and I hope that Simon Rex stars in some more stuff soon. I know he's in Zoe Kravitz or whatever. The is it Zoe Kravitz? The Catwoman from the
Yeah.
Batman movie that just came out. She's directing a film. It might be her
Is
directorial
it
debut, and I
is it
know
Pussy
he's in
Island?
that. So I'm really excited. It is Pussy Island. That's a great title for
Yeah,
a film.
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, I'm
No,
really excited for that just because Simon Rex has like proved himself as more than the guy from the scary movie films, and I'm
yes,
like, yeah, no,
yeah,
it's one of those kind of like revelation. Like we were talking earlier about Vortex, where you're like, I didn't know Argento had that in him. It's like sometimes you're just like, if you've got the right director, you can bring out something that people probably would have never like seen that side of you if you just know Simon Rex from, oh yeah, he's the guy in the scary movie films.
yep,
It's just he's so excellent in Red Rocket. I love it. It's so good.
yep.
But yeah, anyway, what is your number five?
Real quick before I get there, I'm just going to read this from Winslow. He says, agree Leon showing something doesn't mean the filmmaker endorses it. Licorice Pizza is
Yeah.
actually on, still on my film of the decade so far. Yeah, and I think that's
Oh,
another example of like the filmmaker's not holding your hand on how to feel about it. Like it's
no.
not something that's okay per se, but it's like you trust the audience to know that for themselves.
Yeah.
You're just portraying it. Yeah.
Yeah,
For
no,
sure.
it's a really interesting thing because there's so many films out there where like sometimes you're like worried like is this endorsing it, but like I think in cases something like Red Rocket, something like Licorice Pizza, like those films are very clearly, like you said, they're not holding your hand. Like it's more when like one of the big ones for me that really gets me is like something like Cannibal Holocaust, where it's like I don't know where I stand on if like Diodato is endorsing or critiquing what he is doing there because like have you seen Cannibal Holocaust?
Not yet.
No, okay. I don't want to say too much, but it's both a critique. It's critiquing and criticizing something, but it's also partaking in. Where I think the lines are like really blurred there. I'd really love to discuss Cannibal Holocaust with you if you ever watch it. But like, I'm not gonna say, oh, go watch Cannibal Holocaust because it's a vile film. But it's
Yeah.
something that like I've said this on multiple occasions on streams. But I think Cannibal Holocaust is the single most fascinating film ever made to me. It's
Yeah.
a film I don't love, I don't hate, I'm firmly in the middle on, but it's a film that I could talk about for hours because that's the one film where it's like a film not endorsing what it's setting out to say. I'm like, it's like the lines are
Mhm.
so blurred there. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your top 10? Not
Yeah,
top 10.
totally.
What's your
So
top 5?
I will say like we should probably start going a little bit faster, just in the sense of I should like in about a half hour, like around the 2 hour mark of the stream, I probably want to start wrapping it up a little bit. But
Yeah, no worries, man.
just yeah. My number 5 is Lawrence of Arabia. So
Yes.
I had been meaning to watch this film for forever, really. I mean, it's like kind of one of those classic like white whales. Just like it's a really intimidating watch because it's almost 4 hours long and it's
Yeah.
this like epic and everything. But yeah, my wonderful fiance got me the Blu-ray for my birthday last year, and so we watched it together this past summer, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. So I mean, on the thing that kind of really made the film for me was there's this contrast of like on one hand the film is like this really kind of like cynical deconstruction of like ambition and also kind of colonialism and trusting these like big systems of power, but at the same time it's such a romantic film in the way it like sets up a lot of this. It's like just like the music of it and the cinematography, like the landscapes, the editing, like of course like the famous match cut where he blows out the match and then it cuts to the sunrise. Just amazing. Just a film that's in love with what it's doing. And so despite how like kind of cynical and dark it is, you also completely understand why Steven Spielberg, it's like the film he's seen the most. It's like it has that kind of adventurous spirit to it. And I don't know when I'll be watching it again because it is very long, but I plan on revisiting it at some point because I do love it. And I'm number 5.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I really, really want to revisit it because I enjoyed it when I first watched it years ago now. Like it's been quite a while since I've seen it. I've only seen it once, but I'd really like to revisit it now that I'm way more like kind of into film as like a genre instead of just watching it because it's a popular film type thing. Like I really want to actually like revisit it because I feel like I'd have like a huge like renewed and like appreciation and interest in the film. And it's absolutely gorgeous and stunning to look at. I remember that there's just like so many visuals in that film that are just like etched into my brain. It's like a stunning film, and I can completely see why it's on your top 10. That's brilliant, man.
Awesome.
Next,
and is it number 4 for you or
this is number 4 for me. Cool. Next, I had to bust out the Shore Scope Volume 2 for this one.
Oh, I think I know what this is.
Because it's the Boxers Omen.
There we go. One of 2 Shaw Brothers films I've seen, but I think it was the first one I watched, and what's
the other Shaw Brothers film you've watched?
I watched it at one of those cult movie or like a surprise movie night things. It's called Heroes of the East. It's a pretty standard. Well, on at once it's a pretty standard like martial arts movie, but it's also like this really funny like romance, kind of. It's like these romantic partners are competing kind of through martial arts. It's very strange, but it's not like Boxer's Omen strange, but it's just very like off kilter and fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've seen a good handful of Shaw stuff, and they're not all winners. Some of them are like pretty like mediocre, some of them are bad, but a lot of their weirder stuff is what really gravitates towards me. I've seen stuff like The Oily Maniac, which is a quasi
Yeah.
superhero, quasi like evil slime creature man who turns into a slime creature to beat up rapists. Like they make some weird films. They make some really weird films. But I think I can safely say The Boxer's Omen is the weirdest Shaw Brothers film out there. It's kind of a fever dream, so describing it is almost difficult. It's just a very visceral, visual overload of the most cracked out stuff you've ever seen put to screen, basically. It's got some absolutely like bonkers visuals. How do you even describe The Boxer's Omen, Jackson? Like
I, I
how do you
I don't
describe
think
it?
I've tried to describe it to other people before. it's, I mean, like,
It's so
yeah,
difficult.
for what is like technically a martial arts film, like, yeah, I mean, like the biggest like comparison points of comparison would definitely be like body horror films, like
Yes,
really,
yeah,
really,
oh,
really cool.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's just go watch it, I guess. I don't
yeah.
really know. Like, it's really hard to sell people on The Boxer's Omen because I remember you saying it's insane. I watch it basically. I think that was basically like one of your selling points for the film. Like
I think that is what I said.
you
Yeah.
yeah, it's not like a full breakdown, and it's like I don't think like dissecting every individual scene is gonna help. It's just go and watch The Boxer's Omen, and like it's something that I can't really put into words why I love it so much, but it's just so cracked out, it's so insane gonzo. It's like one of the most creative films I think I've ever seen, where every single sequence is doing something that's trying to one up the past sequence, and it almost exists purely to like satisfy like these like cult movie people like myself, like who just like absolutely love weird cult cinema. And it's like it's no surprise why like Arrow Video have released it in a collection or something. Like it's prime Arrow Video material. It's insane. The Boxer's Omen, the greatest, most fucking weirdest film I've ever seen in my entire life. It's great. Go watch it.
I think that's
Oh, I
perfect
love it.
because I don't think I could like I don't think I could really start describing it and like really kind of capture what it is in any way. So I think you just have to go
Yeah,
watch it. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, no, awesome. I will read a couple of comments briefly from Brady. He says, "What's up, bitches?"
Hi, Brab.
Good. And I see that you're sick. Brady's getting sick, so he's doing what any intellectual would do, watching Family Guy in bed and not moving.
Brady,
Sounds
go
about
watch
right.
John Wick 2 already. He
Oh,
needs to go watch John Wick chapter 2 and 3 so me and him can watch chapter 4 before the year's over, because he wants to see it before the year's over. So Brady, go and watch John Wick chapter 2 now, please.
do
Thank
it.
you.
Do it. Absolutely.
It's very good.
Well, my
Oh,
number 4 is one that I actually do have on me. I planned to watch it while I was up here, but then I remembered that this my friend's place that I'm staying at doesn't have a Blu-ray player. But it is The Great Silence, which
awesome.
is a film that I watched very recently. I think this month with you, Leon. And
Yeah, we watched it together. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So this is a spaghetti western directed by Sergio Corbucci. It's not his most famous film. I'd say that's probably Django, the original Django.
Yes, Django. Yeah.
Yeah, very well known. Tarantino ended up riffing on it a little bit with his film. And yeah, I think I mean, Tarantino himself has described Corbucci's West as like the most violent, the most like bleak, the most like kind of ugly to look at in a lot of ways. I mean, Django has like that big, like muddy town set and everything. The Great Silence is a snow western,
It is.
probably the most famous one besides The Hateful Eight. And yeah, it's about this character called Silence. I forget, he's not a bounty hunter, is he, or is he just like a?
Yeah, he's kind of like a bounty hunter with like this kind of like moral. There's like kind of like a moral ambiguity to bounty hunters at that time in the film,
Well,
right?
yeah, because there's other bounty hunters in the film that end up being like that end up kind of being revealed as more of scumbags. Because also, I think Klaus Kinski's character is a bounty hunter as well, who works with like these corrupt local governments and or towns basically. And it's about this very quiet, mute character called Silence, and he sort of he ends up meeting this woman who Klaus Kinski's character really abuses and has committed crimes against, and they end up kind of connecting romantically a bit. And that there's just a lot of different interactions, shootouts, classic kind of Western stuff that occurs between these two kind of rugged outlaw types. And but the way that it ties in, I don't know, this the way it's shot, like the way that they photograph these landscapes. Ennio Morricone's score is just one of my favorites of his. Gorgeous. It's so gorgeous and sad. And the ending too, which I just absolutely love, and I think it's just a perfect ending. It was a little, I think studios thought it was a little too dark because they ended up filming a couple of other alternate endings. One of, I will say, I don't want to spoil what it is because I don't want to spoil what the original ending is too. But if you have seen The Great Silence, go on YouTube and search up Great Silence happy ending or alternate ending. It made Leon and I just like cackle, and Leon kind of prefer. I don't want to say he prefers it.
I don't prefer it. I do not prefer it. No, it is an awful ending, but there's a very, there's a small part in me who just loves trash, who like seeing this like masterwork of a film devolve into the most trashy corporate, like, oh, it's all a happy ending thing is so funny to me that I kind of I could watch the film with that ending and it would just turn into something completely different to me. The alternate ending for that film is like it's so bad that it circles around and becomes incredible in its own unique way. In the same, like, in a Freddy Got Fingered-esque way, where it's like the director knew what he was making in that particular version. Like he knew this is a train wreck, so I'm just gonna go as far as I possibly can with this ridiculous ending, and then they won't want it. They won't want it, and in some countries they've released it with that ending.
I think there's like evidence to that where like they like Corbucci thought it was just so ridiculous that there's no way they would actually release it. So that was like his motivation for filming it, which you can really tell when you watch it. But
it's such a disconnect from like what came before in like every conceivable way. But it's just it's so funny. It's like it's like an alternate reality version of the film. It's like where's the rest of this version of the film? It just turns into something so different. But The Great Silence is fantastic.
Yeah, and just the way it like interrogates like Western, like like people call the entire spaghetti Western genre, rightly so, like deconstructionist. It's interrogating like the Western archetypes and kind of getting into like the corruption and racism and all of these really dark aspects of the old American West. And I feel like none of them really like go as deep or as dark as what The Great Silence does with those. It was just unlike any other Western I've ever seen, and it just looks and sounds so good. I can't wait to revisit it, which is why I asked for the Blu-ray for Christmas. So
it's a great film. I had a great time watching it with you, and it's absolutely fantastic. I will say I might here's the thing. I don't know if I want to say I like Django more because they're both such vastly different films. It's really difficult to compare. I think The Great Silence is a better film, but I might prefer Django just like a slight bit. But I know you adore both films, right?
I adore both films, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think you give both like 5 stars, right? Like full 10 out of 10s. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. They're great. I'd love to watch them more with you in the future because he made as we found out from researching, the man made so many fucking films. He made so many films. It's such a short period as well. But Great Silence is fantastic. Awesome.
And then number 3 for you?
Okay, you're gonna be happy with this one. This is actually a film we watched together on your recommendation. My number three is Mad God. I
Oh,
fucking
awesome.
loved Mad God. Holy shit. So yeah, this is a Shudder original film that was what, like 30 years in the making,
Yep.
maybe longer. Is it
I think
30 or
30
40
years is what
years?
they said. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a film from directed by Phil Tippett, who he's really known for kind of creating some of the creature effects in stuff like Return of the Jedi, Jurassic Park. I'm pretty sure he worked on
Yep.
RoboCop
Starship
2.
Troopers, I want to
Yeah,
say. Yeah, like
Starship Troopers,
quite
of
quite a
course.
few.
Yeah,
Yeah, kind of
yeah,
classic.
and around the time that Starship Troopers came out, I think it was a bit after RoboCop 2, he was toying with the idea of creating his own kind of like stop motion animation film, but he couldn't really get funding, so he only filmed like a few minutes of it or something, and then kind of just put the project on the back burner for years. And then after years of releasing these kind of short films like Mad God Part 1, Part 2, they were just like little segments. He basically, was it crowdfunded, I want to say? Like maybe it was crowdfunded,
I
or
don't
was it
know because
I
it was just done over such a long period of time, and he's a special effects artist. I wonder how much of the issue was funding, or was it just time? So I
yeah,
don't know.
it's an
I have to go back
interesting
and
thing.
look
I
at like
really
the
want to
documentary
research
on it.
into it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I need to research into it more, but basically, it's a film along like in the works for a very, very, very long time, and it is probably one of the like out of all of the films I've seen this year, like even I'd say even over the next two films, it is the singular most unique vision I've seen from a filmmaker in quite some time. It is by far one of the bleakest animated films I've ever watched. It's the type of film you can smell, and not in a
Yeah,
good way. It
yeah.
stinks. This film, like it would probably smell if you went to go see it. Like if you went to the world inhabited. So it's very kind of just like dreary, apocalyptic. It's just like every single element of happiness has been swept under the rug for this just like bleak, horrible world as you follow this character who basically just travels through this wasteland of evil. I don't really like. It's horrible. I love it. I love it. It's so bleak. I know you're a huge fan. If you've got anything you want to say about it, please do, because you'll be able to say it a lot more eloquently than me. I was just
No, not at
really
all.
captivated by the visuals in the film and found it like an absolute like a delight, despite how horrific it is in so many ways. And oh god, I
Yeah.
loved it.
I mean, no. I think that was fantastic. Yeah, I've seen it like three. I think I've seen it three times now. It was my number one movie of last year when it came out. Yeah, I mean, I was very overwhelmed, obviously, by just the world that he builds and just
Yeah.
the mastery of the craft behind the stop motion. But I think it also just has really interesting ideas. Like I think it's kind of in some ways it's an allegory about like human futility in a lot of ways because they keep sending like these like assassin figures into this hellish world and it always fails. Like they never end up kind of succeeding on their mission. There's a lot of like kind of religious, like very very violently like
Yes.
apocalyptic religious kind of imagery in it. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of the most fascinating visions I think I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
I can't really add too much more to what you said. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it is. It's so like singular. I think in my review, like I open it with the line of something like, there are very few directors who really deserve to have their name included in the title of a film." Like you're like John Carpenter's Halloween or something like that. But like Phil Tippett cements himself as one of those directors where this is his film. It's like
Yeah,
sometimes you'll watch a film and you'll be like, "Oh, it's a team coming together." And I'm not dismissing the fact that other people worked on this film, because like who every individual person who like helped craft this film like probably poured like blood, sweat, and tears into crafting it. But in terms of being like a singular vision, it's so hard to really find films this original and unique that don't feel like they're riffing on something else. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is influenced by this, influenced by that. Like Mad God feels so singular, and it feels like the type of film 10, 20 years from now people are, or like in a couple of years even, people are going to be taking influence from, and it's going to kind of change the landscape of like adult animation, you know, like
Yeah.
and like it's just like films that like they can do something, you can do something like this and it will find its audience and it will be a success and it will like wow people, like no matter how long it takes. Like it's just, it's very inspiring as well. I find it incredibly inspiring as like as an artist myself. Like I create like music and stuff, but like as somebody who creates, like seeing somebody pour so much time of their life into crafting something and it coming out after all this time and finding an audience is probably one of the most weirdly heartwarming things ever. Which is weird to say, heartwarming and Mad God should not go hand in hand together. But like
Yeah.
in that case, like no, it's really charming and it's gorgeous. I almost showed it to my friend last night, but I think they were just a bit too tired to watch another film. But next time they're around, I think I'm going to show them Mad God because I want them to see this.
Absolutely. Brady's got a comment. It's true. It
It
does.
does. It really does.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's excellent. It's like
Awesome.
one of the easiest, like 10 out of 10 5-star ratings I've given this year. So thank you for showing
Great.
it to me.
I'm happy to do it, and it was so fun watching it with you and Brady.
Josh.
No, Josh, we watched it too. Or no, wait, was
Yeah.
Brady there as well, or was it just
No,
all four of us?
Brady
Or,
seen it. Brady watched
that's
it on
right.
his own at one point.
Yeah,
It was
my
me,
bad.
you, and Josh. I'm pretty
Me
sure.
and
Yeah.
Josh. Yep. My number 3 is, I don't think you've seen this film yet. Seconds, by John Frankenheimer.
No, I really want to see it though.
Yeah, so this is a John Frankenheimer. I forget if this was, it's part of his like Paranoia trilogy. I forget if this was before or after the Manchurian Candidate.
I really want to
But
see that too.
yeah, so this it has a very, very cool like sci-fi high concept premise. It's basically this rich guy who's unhappy with his life, feels unfulfilled by it, decides, like he finds this service where basically they promise you through surgery they can get you another life. They can put you surgically into a younger body and kind of set you off into this kind of wealthier. I mean, like he's fairly wealthy himself in order to afford the service, but you can kind of, but basically they fake your own, they fake your death when they do this ritual and everything, and you get to start from scratch. And so it kind of plays into this idea that I think a lot of people have about just like, what if I had made decisions differently in life, and what if things had gone down a different trajectory. And what he discovers very, I would say slowly, but really immediately after the surgery, he starts realizing how foolhardy this was, and how like he will not be fulfilled by this, and honestly how much of like a Lynchian like existential nightmare this entire scenario is. I say Lynchian. There is a lot of really kind of like abstract art house kind of imagery that reminded me of stuff like Eraserhead or even like Lost Highway, kind of his later period stuff. So the guy, and I do just want to mention the performance as well, because the guy who plays the younger body that he transitions into is played by Rock Hudson. And brilliant actor, of course, was in lots of kind of classic Hollywood era films. But what it was revealed later in life that he was gay, and he ended up dying of AIDS. And what's really revealing, I mean, it's really interesting to think about that in the context of his performance, because he is playing somebody who's leading a double life. Because his character, like, even after the surgery, he goes to see like his old wife and everything, and see how she's doing without him and things like this. So you really get this like kind of meta sense of somebody who is like trapped in, something that they're not comfortable in. And it's a very upsetting and sad film. I know a lot of my like high like films on this list are very much like that, but it really moved me. And it's just and the ending too is just like a real like scary gut punch. So
that sounds fantastic. That genuinely sounds like a brilliant film. I really want to see that. I mean, if you've got it in you, please recommend that sometime. Obviously, it sounds like a difficult watch for the like the meta angles and stuff. But
yeah, it is. But it's also, I mean, it's fascinating as well. I mean, like like kind of knowing. I mean, it's one of my favorite performances I think of all time now. Like, I just think
Yeah.
it's an actor like channeling his real experiences into the character, but nobody knows he's doing it until years later. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
No, it sounds like beautiful. Like,
yeah.
and it just sounds like a brilliant film. Yeah, I really want to see that. I need to see some Frankenheimer stuff. Like, I don't think I've seen any of. Wait,
Have you seen his Island of Dr. Moreau movie, or
no,
was it?
I have seen one. I've seen Ronin. Ronin's
Oh
really
yeah, that's it.
cool.
Yeah, that's him.
Ronin's
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah, yeah. Very great car chases and that very different sounding film as well. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, I've always wanted to see Second. So yeah, no, that sounds great, and you've sold me on the film.
yeah.
I
It's a
really, really
great.
want to see
It's like a really like for people that are kind of looking for like hidden gems that just happen to have like all timer premises, and you're like, why isn't this like more of an esteemed classic? Seconds would
it.
definitely
Yeah,
be one of them. So yeah,
that sounds brilliant.
yeah,
Oh, I really want to see that.
awesome.
Um, so what are we at now? Two?
I think two for you. Yeah,
Okay, awesome. I think you'll probably have been pleased with my Mad God pick, but I think you're going to be pleased with this one even more. And I'm actually going to ask you to talk about it quite a bit because I know how much you adore and love this movie, and it might actually be on your list. So maybe is it okay? Have I seen your second film?
uh, the number two on my list. Yeah, you have. Yeah,
Maybe it's your number two as well, because if
I think it
so,
is. I think it is actually. I think I can
yeah,
jump
we
in with
can
you.
we
Yeah,
yeah
yeah.
we can have a little discussion about this. So my number two is Cure.
Yes, that's my number two as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have
awesome,
watched
awesome.
this 3 times this year. I don't know how many times you've
I've only
watched it.
seen it once,
Okay,
but I
yeah,
really, really want to revisit it. I,
yeah.
I really want to watch it with Brady. I want to see what he thinks of it. But Cure. Okay, so oof, who wants to start? You start. You've seen it more. I'll
Okay,
jump in. I want you to talk about it because
sure.
I find the film fascinating, and I've only seen it once, so there's a lot I really need to still kind of like unravel about the film. But my first viewing, I'll say super quick. One of the most horrifying films I've ever witnessed with that is like not explicit whatsoever. Like it is a film that gets across like pure terror in a way very few films have ever been able to like kind of like elicit such a reaction from me with it. Anyway, it's terrifying. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's my little intro.
It's yeah, no, I mean it's so for anybody that doesn't know the premise, it's basically this Japanese like detective is investigating a series of murders that all were like the same modus operandi. Like people. It's basically people were killed and they were this big red X was carved into their neck, and all of the people who committed the crime, they're all committed by different people. They all know what they did and they confess very easily to the crime, and but they basically don't know exactly why they did it. They just said it felt like the right thing to do, pretty much, which is a really
Yeah.
creepy thing in itself.
Oh
Um,
god, yeah.
the idea of like not having control over something like that, and it's kind of revealed later in the. I mean, it's not even probably 30-40 minutes into the film that it gets revealed that what's happening here is hypnosis, and there's this
Yes.
guy. Mamiya, I think his name is, and he is like he seems to be under some kind of influence himself. Like he's like a lot of these people who committed the crimes, he doesn't really know his surroundings, and it's very much the genre like kind of Zodiac or Memories of Murder of like a detective trying to get into the head of a serial killer and just
Yeah.
really like getting obsessed with the case and just kind of losing his mind over it. But it kind of takes those films and pushes it into like full on horror and kind of occultism. Like there is a like subplot in the film in terms of like the origins of this hypnosis and everything that's kind of
Yeah.
left ambiguous, but there's enough like occult aspects to it that I think you can kind of count it in that area.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is so scary and it's so fascinating to watch and rewatch. I just love the way that Kiyoshi Kurosawa like films horror scenes. Like
Yes.
he operates in like these very wide shots for the most part, and when he gives you close-ups, it's very like sudden. It's very like
Yeah.
there's like 2 or 3 shots of like actual violence in the films, and they're very sudden and not anticipated.
Yeah.
So it's just a fascinating film to like watch on a formal level. But then if you just want to like be along for the ride, it's a amazingly well done script and
Oh god, yeah.
has just really really creepy atmosphere to it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's I've seen 3 of his films now. I've seen 3 of Kurosawa's films. I've seen this. I've seen The God from Underground, which I think is his first film, like his first film
Mhm.
from like the 90s. Maybe he did something before that. I know it's a very early film. I thought that film was okay. And then I've also seen Pulse, which I like Pulse quite a bit. I'm not as like enamored with it as most people are,
Yeah, I need
but
to rewatch
it's
it for sure. Yeah.
there's one standout sequence in Pulse, which I think you know the
Yeah.
sequence. I don't really have
Yes.
to say anything else.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say about Cure is it kind of I found myself a little disappointed in Pulse because I was like I like the premise, and I think when it's trying to be scary, it's really effective, really terrifying. But I'm not very captivated by what's going on. That was my big thing with Pulse. But with Cure, I'm like captivated throughout, but it's still delivering on that just like very unnerving, visceral kind of terror. But it's like it's both like you said, it's kind of like a Zodiac-esque film where it's like this detective really trying to get into the mind of a killer and really like losing himself, and you find yourself like losing yourself in the film too, almost like
Yeah.
it just becomes like weirdly hypnotic, like in a way that's just really fascinating. Yeah, there's very few films like it. Like there's films that have been influenced by it, like absolutely, but in terms of something that can like that tiptoes the line between like a police procedural kind of thriller film as well as like just a full-on horror film, it is immaculate. It's
Yep.
like out of all the films I've watched this year, I think it's like the closest to a genuine like perfect flawless film. If
Yep.
like I don't know, it's immaculate. That's the word I'd describe it as. Oh, it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
No, I love it so much. There's a great interview on the I'm sure it's on both Blu-rays with Kiyoshi Kurosawa and Ryusuke Hamaguchi, who did like Drive My Car and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so they really kind of get into the ideas of the film a little bit more. So that's it's just it's become one of the films that I just like find the most fascinating to just kind of like deconstruct a little bit
Oh
like in
god,
my
yeah.
head. So yeah.
You know, I completely understand that. You know,
And
it's
Winslow on the
fascinating.
subject of Kiyoshi Kurosawa says Tokyo Sonata is great too. I
I
haven't seen
really want
yet,
to see
yet.
that.
I know that's more of just in his like drama wheelhouse. It's not a horror film, but yeah, I definitely do want to check that out.
I've got one of his films here somewhere, but I completely I forget the name of it, so I don't want to spend like 7 years looking for it. But I have one film that Arrow released from him, that's like kind of like a modern film. And I really want to see it. I'm just looking to see if I can like see it on the shelf now because I don't want to spend like forever looking for it. But I'll have a look. But it's like a film that came out in the past 5 or 6 years or something that I really want to check out. And we got the announcement a few days ago that he's got a new film that kind of feels a bit like Cure,
Heard about
apparently.
this?
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, but that sounds amazing. So I can't wait to see like whatever that is because
yeah,
that
of
should be really interesting.
course. So
Um,
without further ado, Leon, what is your number one first time watch of 2023?
Oh, okay, okay. So this was really difficult, but at the same time, it wasn't. And when I describe this film, it's going to be quite similar to The Boxer's Omen, where I don't have a whole lot to say other than it's just amazing. But my
Okay.
number one pick, you've seen this. Um, is it's been quoted as maybe the greatest film of all time by one of my favorite directors, John Waters, and that's
I know
Faster
what this is.
Pussycat Kill Kill by Russ Meyer. um,
Why didn't I realize just by process of elimination that that was it? That's great.
Faster Pussycat Kill Kill is the coolest, most amazing, most badass, fantastic, greatest fucking masterwork of cinema I've ever seen in my entire life. For those of you who don't know, Russ Meyer is a crazy man who made a lot of kind of like not sexploitation films, but a lot of very like maybe what would you define Russ Meyer as? Because you've seen a few of his films,
Sexploitation,
right?
but not like he's not like I mean, I haven't seen Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, so maybe that gets more like
Oh,
explicit. But at least Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, it's not. There's not like tons of nudity or anything in it. It's basically just like a yeah, I mean, it's exploiting ideas of sex in kind of a John Waters kind of way, but like it's kind of like pop art. I don't know. It's
Yes,
hard to
yeah.
describe. It also plot wise, it has a lot in common with Death Proof. I will say,
Oh
yeah,
yes. Yeah, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill is just it might be like the coolest film I've ever seen in my entire life. Like it's a film like I was talking before about Mad God where I was like this just like oozes style and it's like the most definitive like version of like an artistic vision out there. But Faster Pussycat Kill Kill just feels like the culmination of what if we just made a film with the most badass characters of all time and you just follow these characters for 80 minutes and it doesn't ask for much more than that. It doesn't ask you to really like there's not a great deal to really dissect about Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. It is very much just oh, there's just some evil women who want to go around murdering people and driving cars and stuff. And if you're along for the ride, you'll have a good time. And that's Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. It is.
yeah,
Every single line of dialogue feels like the greatest thing my ears have ever heard. It's like I'm just like, how did this combination of words occur and how did this happen? I'm so happy that I heard this. The lead character, I forget the actress's name, but she's so cool. I don't know,
yeah.
she's just awesome.
She's like
In the
Japanese or something, right? Like
I
she,
think so, yeah. I
yeah,
let
yeah.
me see.
I think she is, yeah, or at least like Japanese American.
Teresa Tanner, I think. Yeah, she's a Japanese-born American
Yeah,
actress. She is amazing in the film. It like just oozes this like sense of style and coolness, despite the fact it was made for like 10 grand or something. Like it's made for like next to nothing, but it just follows these characters around who are like no good. Like what would you call these characters? Because like aren't they all like ex like go-go dancers and stuff like that?
they are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
there's a kind of like Death Proof. There's like a mix of them, like between like kind of the more like theoretically like badass ones, and then ones that are kind of. Or no, wait, that's the woman that they kidnap. Yeah, sorry, I was mixing up the woman that they kidnap with the like the Mary Elizabeth
The
Winstead
actual.
character in Death Proof, kind of. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
they're all
just
like go-go dancers, basically. Yeah,
yeah, it's just a film that it just kind of embraces on the same level as something like Mad God. It just kind of embraces the fact that you can make the film you really want to make. Like it's very inspiring, just in the fact that yeah, this was put together for a very small amount of money, and yeah, on the surface, it's like I don't want to say it's hollow, but
no,
there's not a whole lot to really dig into, but that doesn't really matter because it's just
yeah,
oozes personality in a way that very few films like I've ever seen in my life do. And like
yeah,
from start to finish, it is just so delightfully like campy and it's like it's got cult classic like written on it. Like it basically has like a seal of approval. Like I said, John Waters made a case for it being the greatest film ever made, and I can't disagree with him. Like I
yeah,
don't think I can. Like I say that about a lot of films, but I do think Faster Pussycat Kill Kill is one of the greatest motion pictures ever assembled.
yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love it so much. Yeah, it's on I think it's on YouTube. That there is a Blu-ray in America, but as you've told me, it goes for
Insanely
hundreds and
expensive.
hundreds of dollars, and I'm
It's
like,
like two. I think it's like $200, but like for one Blu-ray, that's kind of insane. Yeah,
oh, it's insane.
yeah,
I've read into it, and I think it's because like the Russ Meyer estate just doesn't license his films out, which is like heartbreaking. So,
yeah,
yeah, like I think I've said this before, and I will say it again. Next time you buy a Criterion, pick up Beyond the Valley of the Dolls because that is going to go out of print soon. That's a Fox
yeah. It's
film, and
true.
Disney are not going
Shit.
to renew the license for that.
Oh, I didn't think about that. I need to do that for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is I've seen that twice. I don't like it anywhere near as much as Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, but it is a deeply fascinating film. It's something that kind of like Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. There's elements of it where I'm like, this is maybe the coolest thing I've ever seen, and then there's other parts where I'm like, this is nonsense. Yeah, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is fascinating, but yeah, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, my favorite first time watch of the year, easily.
Awesome.
Maybe my favorite first time watch in film viewing. I don't know. It's amazing.
That's so cool, man. That's awesome.
Oh,
That's
oh,
such
I
a good
loved it.
pick.
Thank you.
All
Okay,
right.
now what's your number one?
Yes. My number one is Bo is afraid. No.
Yes. No, I'm
I
heartbroken because I know it's not
I
really.
I Beau Travail by Claire Denis. So this is very much considered like her masterwork, like her. I don't know if it's her most seen film. That's probably High Life still, but yeah. So Beau Travail is so Claire Denis grew up in. I think she grew up in like somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa, like under French colonial rule. Her family might have had something to do with that colonial. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but she's always been very fascinated by like colonialism and kind of like remnants of it. So Beau Travail is about like these French legionnaires, like military people in who are stationed in somewhere in East Africa. Very beautiful, like white sand cliffs kind of location, and it's about kind of. It's one of those films that's really kind of hard to like break down in terms of like what it's about, because it's so much more about like the filmmaking itself and like the I don't know, like the experience of the characters as opposed to just like literally what happens. But it's kind of like a psychological battle between this guy who is like a higher ranking like drill sergeant or something like that in the Legion, and this kind of young up and coming legionnaire, and it's very much a film about masculinity. Like these people are kind of like that's kind of the source of this psychological tension, but at the same time it's kind of a film that like shows kind of the beauty of masculinity at the same time, because like it's very much like all of their military exercises are choreographed like ballet dances almost. I mean, like there's this whole sequence where they're all like chanting this beautiful like beat in the desert and like stretching at the same time, and it's just one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen. But I think for a lot of people, like the real reason I love it and have grown to love it even more on subsequent viewings is it has just one of the best endings of all time. And it's not an ending like I've been talking about like on, you know, some of these other picks as like, oh, it's just the most bleak thing ever and it makes everything come full circle. It's beautiful. But it's not totally happy either. It's very like bittersweet. And I think sometimes in film that's something that really kind of gets to me emotionally. I think I said it in my review, but like I cried the second time I watched the film. I'll bring it up to Winslow, the Rhythm of the Night. I don't want to say too much more about it, but that's it plays the song Rhythm of the Night by Corona, and there's a dance scene involved. I won't say too much more of what's involved, but I don't know. I think it's just a beautiful, you know, expression about regret and kind of your own internal psychological or, you know, masculine kind of battles that you might have. But at the same time, like, it's also just about embracing your own individuality and kind of eventually maybe loving who you are despite all of your flaws, you know. And
that's beautiful.
Which is it's not like a lot of other Claire Denis films, because she's obviously very violent in a lot of her stuff, and it's very, you know, kind of, and also she does a lot of genre exercises from, you know, Trouble Every Day to Bastards, stuff like that, and High Life. But this is very much in her like art drama wheelhouse for sure. I just love it. I think I really struggled for like which one. Like any of these 10 could probably be my number one, but like it's I think at the end of the day, it's just that ending. I just love it so much.
Yeah. I have a Criterion, so I have no excuse not to check it out. I really, really do need to see it.
Whenever you get around to it, for sure.
No, I really, really want to see it. I've just heard excellent things like across the board. And before we did this stream, you told me to like whittle my list down, which in hindsight, I'm very glad you did, because the stream was very long, and I'm okay with that. I love it, but I would have went on for so long if I had like 16 films to talk about.
I think we timed it well, because I'm like my fiance was taking a nap, and I want to make sure and still like hang out with her for the rest of the evening and cook dinner and all that. But dude, I've enjoyed this so much. This was so much fun, like just kind of going through like the best
and
so many of them like we watched together, and for the ones we didn't, we can like recommend stuff to each other. So
Oh god, yeah. No, it was a great time, and like obviously, even though we spoke about like a good handful of these films, like in calls and like through messages and stuff, it was great to actually just have a one-on-one talking about 20 or 19, should I say, because we had to say like number two, but like 19 films that are just very different from each other, very like just across the board, just like it's kind of an insane list if you paired all like collections of films together of what we recommended. It's just it kind of encapsulates the broad horizons of cinema as it is, and I don't know.
Yeah,
There's just something
I think
great
we did
about
get a
that.
good variety of stuff in there. I think both of our lists have, comedy, tragedy, like weird shit, art house
Oh
shit.
god,
I don't
yeah,
know. Like
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
so
there's
yeah.
so much. I was gonna say though, in my initial like top 16, I did have a Claire Denis film. I did have Trouble Every Day, but
Oh, there you go.
that would have been like top 11, top 12 for me. So that
Nice.
is like essentially an honorable mention. But yeah, no, I really want to see Beau Travail. It sounds beautiful, and how you just described it then really. It sounds like a really powerful film, and
It
that is
is.
one thing I will say about Trouble Every Day that I found like that was a very powerful film too, and I've
Yeah.
seen I've seen two films from her, sorry, because I've seen Trouble Every Day, which I loved, and High Life, which I didn't love, but
Yeah.
I
No,
didn't
fair
think
enough.
High Life was awful, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, she's a fascinating filmmaker.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate like chatting and everything. It's yeah, been a really
Yeah.
really fun time, and
Thanks for coming
thanks
on.
to
And I
everybody.
will give a quick like shout out just to Leon, love you man, Mr. Videos. So
Oh,
just
thank
giving
you,
a quick
man.
little note of love for Leon out here. Like
Thank
yeah,
you.
love
I
I love
will return. I don't know when. I'm not gone. I promise. I will be back eventually. Maybe soon. I need. I don't know. I just need a good concept to really come back to because I want to start doing videos again because like you were saying like life's been in the way and also it's just like the motivation hasn't fully been there. But it's not
yeah.
like I don't want to make videos. It's just I'm kind of in like a bit of a very strange situation in my life right now where like I'm just kind of focused on other things. But yeah, no, if you ever want to do a live stream again or something, I'm always down to do that. If you want to hop on my channel, I'll hop on yours or something. But I definitely do want to return to making videos again, like you were saying for yourself, like early
Yep.
on, because yeah, YouTube's awesome. It's really fun. I'll make a video talking about how much I hate the holdovers and annoy the internet or something.
Get into all the spicy shit. Awesome.
I'm the only person in the world who hates the holdovers. I
I
follow
think
like
you are. Like
40
I haven't
people.
heard anybody say that, but
Like I swear, I follow like 40, 50 people on Letterboxd, and the lowest score I can see is a 5 out of 10, and even then they're like, it's alright. And then I'm just like, no, I fucking hate this.
all
Maybe
right.
I'll do a video on the holdovers.
Okay. There you go. All right. Well, thanks
But yeah,
again for
no,
coming
thank
on,
you
and
so much.
thanks to everybody who commented as well. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
it's been a while for me as well, but yeah, just love chatting with you guys, and yeah,
yeah,
have a great rest of your guys' day. Bye.
yeah. See you later, guys. Bye.